to go over. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. My name is Chad Royer. I'm chairing the executive meeting of Bronx Community Board 7 for the month of May. And I'd like to start with the committee guidelines. I don't have the ability to share, so if someone can put it up,
I'll put it up.
or I could just read it.
Chad, remember to amend the portion from last time?
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay.
I got that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Got it. Thanks for the reminder. So the committee agenda is as follows. So we have the review of the previous minutes, the district manager's updates, the chairperson's update. On the new business, we have the New York Botanical Gardens upcoming capital project, open meetings, law discussion and a vote, strategic policy statement, Bronx Community Board 7's statement of needs discussion. And then we have the committee reports and any follow-ups from previous meetings. Back to the guidelines. On September 2nd, 2021, Governor Kathy Hochul signed into law Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, which authorizes the community board to run its meeting remotely, and minutes will be taken for record keeping. The minutes will appear on our website within days and can be requested from the CB7 staff at any time. If you are calling into the meeting on the conference, here are the controls while joining from landline or cell or call dial-up number. To hear all available commands, enter ** on your phone, *6 to mute or unmute, *9 to virtually raise your hand. How we will run this meeting is as follows. Our code of conduct, including penalties and actions. Bronx Community Board 7 has the right to remove and or ask a member of the public to leave a meeting or to block participation of anyone who engages in inappropriate conduct, including but not limited to obscene or offensive images or language, personal attacks, threats, or any other behavior that reasonably impedes the orderly administration of the meeting. Repeated offenses will be reviewed by the board's executive committee or any other assigned committee for a ban, where the amount of time to be objectively determined by the above committees of the participants in the event of repeated disruptive behavior. If in-person outbursts or attacks continue, this will be considered disturbing the peace and the authorities will be summoned. Everyone besides the speaker or the presenter will stay muted throughout the meeting. After each presentation is over, I'll inquire if committee members have questions. Committee members will signify that they have a question by pressing the raise hand button on your screen or request to speak through the chat or when the chair opens the floor. Continues. Sorry, split screen. Only those recognized by the chair of the committee will be allowed to speak during the allotted time. Only those recognized by the chair of the committee will be allowed to speak during the allotted time. We will stay on topic with the agenda items. Any other items will be acknowledged by the chair under new business or addressed at the next meeting, granted that there is time and the committee agrees on the topic. Following the questions, discussions, and public comment portion, the committee will begin their discussion after each presentation or agenda item and will conclude with a decision to vote on a recommendation. When the agenda is finished, the meeting will be adjourned. Any questions related to the meeting software or our process, please use the chat function or raise hand function now or contact our district manager, Aisha Brough. Now, next on the agenda, we will just go over a roll call. Let's start with Barbara Stronzer.
Barbara Stronzer is here.
Eric Asensio.
Eric Asensio is here.
Betty Arce. Betty Arce. I know I saw her. I'll come back. Yahaira Arias,
Jahira Arias present.
Michelle Avila,
Michelle Avila present.
Andrew Leosa,
Andrew Leosa present.
Emmanuel is on leave. Edgar Ramos,
Edgar Ramos present.
Lourdes Acosta. Lourdes Acosta, is he on? I'll come back. Chad Royer, I am present. Victor Saldana,
Victor Saldana present.
and I want to come back to Betty RC. I saw her on here.
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm having problems with my computer. I'm here. Betty Arthur present. Thank
Oh,
you.
good, we got you, we got you.
Okay.
So we have a quorum. Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome.
Now, next on the agenda, we have the approval of the previous minutes.
Motion to approve the previous minutes.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Any comments on the minutes?
No, I don't see
No
it.
comments? Okay, then we can start, we can go for votes. Oh, do you have the screen up for the tally? Or are we just gonna verbally say it? Okay, got it. So Barbara Stronzer,
Barbara Stronzer approves the minutes.
thank you. Eric Asensio,
Eric Asensio approves.
Betty Arce,
Betty Arce approves.
Yahara Arias,
Jahira Arias approves.
Michelle Avila,
Michelle Avila approves.
Andrew Leosa,
Andrew Leosa approves.
Emmanuel's on leave, Edgar Ramos,
Edgar Ramos agrees with the motion approving the minutes.
thank you. Lourdes Acosta, not here. Chad Royer, I approve the minutes. Victor Saldana,
Victor Saldana approves.
the minutes have been approved. Thank you, Barbara. So next on the agenda, we have the district manager's reports. Aisha, you have the floor.
So if it's okay with everyone, I'm gonna defer to the 3 items on the agenda because they're kind of part of my report. So,
Okay. No objection? No objection. Let's move on. So next we have the chairperson's updates. Barbara, do you have any updates for us at this time?
I would just like to thank those of you who turned out for the Bronx Week Parade on Sunday. Those of you who marched and those of you who tabled. It was a nice event. It was a beautiful day, and thank you for coming out.
Thank you, Barbara. Next, we have new business. So the first item under new business would be the New York Botanical Gardens upcoming capital project, where it'll be discussing Children's Adventure Garden presentation. Is there anyone available that can go into that right now?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Chair Stronzer and the committee. Thank you for having New York Botanical Garden present tonight. My name is Angel Hernandez. I'm Director of Government Relations. I'm joined by my colleagues, Aaron Bushka, Vice President for Government and Community Relations, along with Ursula
We
Hoskins,
lost them.
Hello?
Yes, now we have you
Can you
back.
see me now? Okay.
Okay.
I'll continue. Also joined by Ursula Hoskins, Vice President for Capital Planning, Construction and Operations, Slavika Mikovic, Project Manager, Landscape Architect, and Mark Donnelly, Associate Vice President of Capital Planning and an architect as well. Today, we're talking about our latest capital project at the Children's Adventure Garden, and perhaps ask for a letter of support from this body to be presented at the Public Design Commission. As you know, our Children's Adventure Garden is a place where families and children learn about the plant sciences. It is also a headquarters for our high school explainers program. So my colleagues will talk about that in a little while. But before that, I just want to share some exciting updates, what's happening at the garden. We are geared to open our exhibition, food stories around the table, food stories that we all love. And that's going to start June 4th. This is an exhibition about food, stories that are shared around the world, and beautiful picnic tables that were designed by Bronx artists. We're also relaunching our Bronx Neighbors program. As you know, we started this program back in July 2020, offering free access to all Bronx residents. Well, now this program is institution-wide. It's one of our staple programs that we're offering to the Bronx community. We also have a new ticketing program where people can actually go, punch in their zip codes, and get up to 6 free admission vouchers from Tuesday to Sunday. And we're also slated to celebrate our Juneteenth weekend. That is Friday, June 17th and Saturday, June 18th. On Friday, June 17th, we are opening an African-American garden, and that's called Remembrance and Resilience. This is going to be an opening during the evening from 6 to 8:30. It's going to include food, some entertainment, and it's hosted by Dr. Jessica Harris. And finally, we are celebrating Bronx Week, Bronx Day rather, and that's going to be Saturday, June 18th. And as you know, this is from 10 to 6 p.m. It's a day of ongoing festivities at Daffodil Hill. We have food trucks, tours of the garden. So this is going to be a lot of activities for children and families, and we look forward for everyone to be there. So without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to our colleagues to talk more about the capital project at the Children's Adventure Garden.
We're actually going to share, so
Hold on there. You have to unmute us.
right,
I did.
all right, but
Be able to share. Are you okay? Yeah, okay.
slideshow, yeah, we need to toolbar. There you go. So, on the left. So, well, thank you very much for having us tonight. Can everybody hear me? Just want to make sure. Great.
Yes.
So again, my name is Ursula Hoskins. I'm Vice President for Capital Planning, Construction and Operations here at the New York Botanical Garden. I've been here for 10 years. I've seen you folks, some of you folks before in the past when we presented other projects like the conservatory or the green zone. And so the project we're going to talk about tonight is our Children's Adventure Garden. The Children's Adventure Garden is a 9-acre site within the New York Botanical Garden that first opened in 1998 and is composed of 2 multi-purpose teaching buildings, a ticket booth, and 17 outdoor learning galleries or spaces that are accessed from a linear spine. It's that central, if you're looking at the graphic we have, that central path down the center is all the galleries, the outdoor galleries are sponsored off of it, as are the buildings. And I'm going to just try to move the toolbar here. Yeah, there we go. Sorry. So the Adventure Garden hosts school groups as well as drop-in family visitors and has provided both a facilitated and a self-guided experience for visitors to learn about the science of nature in a way that encourages play and discovery. Nature play is promoted with opportunities to touch, climb, and play in galleries curated with natural things, including plants, trees, stumps, and rocks. The galleries, plazas, and buildings are all arranged off to the left and the right sides of this central asphalt path. I'm having some technical difficulties. Bear with me. Well, I'll keep going. Oh, no, back one. There you go. No, there. All right. So the Children's Adventure Garden has been heavily used by the public and programmed extensively to school groups since 1998 when it opened. Visitation to NYBG in the year leading up to COVID was greater than 1 million visitors, and as a result, the pressures of heavy use and visitation on NYBG's older facilities have started to show. The Adventure Garden, given its age and intensity of use, is now in need of renovation. While many other parts of the garden have been recently upgraded or newly built, like the renovation of the conservatory and construction of the Edible Academy and Native Plant Garden, the Adventure Garden has fallen behind. Deterioration from heavy use and exposure to the environment, inefficient mechanical systems, and current educational program that is not well supported by the layout and design of current facilities necessitates the need for renovation of the garden. In 2015, in an effort to rebuild the Adventure Garden so that it could be more useful and easily maintained as the rest of the facilities in NYBG, the garden engaged the services of a design team to put together a package of interventions to update the garden and its facilities. It's amazing we started this in 2015. It takes this long, unfortunately. So the Adventure Garden redesign and renovation project work will generally include interior guts to renovate the building interiors, restoration of portions of both building exteriors, increased building energy efficiency, increased building accessibility, construction of a new family restroom, exciting new outdoor learning spaces for children, including the redesign and renovation of existing garden galleries, two new entry arbor structures, they're replacing existing, and then a new treetop canopy walk, which is a wood structure that elevates through a ramp and platform system, elevates the users up into the tree canopies. And then lastly, the introduction of interpretive signage that facilitates a self-guided experience. So now what I'd like to do is turn the presentation over to my colleague Slavika, who will provide a more detailed description of the scope of work. And then later, Mark will address the architectural issues.
Okay, technically, Ursula said the most of it, but I can just add that these galleries that are technically multiple outdoor learning gardens, we call it galleries, they all will receive renovations and updates and new features. So that includes new wood surfacing, wood fiber surfacing. Most of them will receive the new pipe and fencing, the nature play elements, seating like stump seatings and other types of seatings, perennial and shrub throughout the galleries. 2 drink fountains will be added, and 2 birds nest activity structures will be added in one of the gallery. Now, as Ursula said, there are 17 existing galleries, and we are adding additional gallery, which is that treetop walk, and that let us put a picture of it as it's a wood structure, and technically it is combination of high suspension bridges and platforms that are above the ground. And they are allowing visitors to walk above the ground and within the trees branches. And technically allow them to experience the excitement of exploring the tree canopy and learning, and plus there will be some of the platforms will have there will be specially laid to have a vistas towards the across the wetlands towards the east portion of the ground. There will be designed a ADA accessible pathway to the lower levels of this structure. And about the in terms of the two additional buildings revisions that Mark will say about it.
So why don't you go back to the first slide? So when you enter the garden, the arbor experience will be very similar, but immediately on your left will be an area, it's called Lowland Scramble. And this is an opportunity for children to get to better understand a low wetland environment. There'll be nature play similar to the stumps that you see the child on. The idea is that we'll use reclaimed materials that are wood in nature or original wood products for kids to engage with, to do gross motor activities. Then and all the interpretation and science will reinforce the science messaging, which is all about the different environments. It's an opportunity for a child to learn through both gross motor skills, but also to see the interpretation. So this particular area of the garden has both cypress trees, which have knees. That's why the signage says trees have knees. So the idea is to get across some of those STEM messages, the science, technology, through the natural environment by using natural materials. Then this area is immediately on the right when one enters, and we can go through these, but this is this elevated tree canopy walk that Slavika talked about. We can pass through this since you've all seen these pictures. It's similar to a venue that actually the zoo has. That's a paid venue. Ours will be part of the garden experience. Then as you make your way further through the garden, as you're moving southerly, there's an existing boulder scramble gallery that's all about geology. It will continue to be about geology, but we'll just upgrade some facilities. Some portions of the facility will introduce the signage that will actually utilize actual real pieces of stone and teach lessons. Then this is Seedling Maze and the circle and music and arts area. This area is actually about a group of population that we don't currently target, which is youngest visitors. We don't have a target exhibition interpretation for the youngest kids. And so this is an opportunity. It's an enclosed fenced-in area where a caregiver could go in there with a young child, a toddler. The toddler could wander around, engage with the arts. There's a planted maze, could do that, but it's a safe environment because it was entirely fenced. And so it's a little more freedom for the child, but it's a safe environment for a parent or a caregiver to stay in. Then our wetlands area is highly visited and really an asset that we are taking advantage of. And we're actually introducing a wetland walk that would allow, it's a boardwalk that allows the user to engage and actually get within that space to better understand, to see bird and wildlife, and to engage within the dense vegetation that is part of a wetland. And then from here, if we keep going to the north, that's the plan. Mark will talk about the architecture. I think the remaining portion of the garden, moving again to the south, is some galleries that work very well now. We have a bird meadow. We'll do some enhancements there. We have a pond pavilion, which has a floating dock and is well used and is working very successfully. We're reclaiming on the top of the page, we're reclaiming a fountain that is no longer functional, and we're going to reclaim that space and turn that into a bigger gathering space. The Adventure Plaza that you see in the center of the drawing here will be a gathering space, but then the rest of it will return to vegetation. So it is more wildlife habitat, more pollinator habitat, things of that sort. And then I think we're going to turn it over to Mark to talk about the building enhancements.
Right, so we've spoken about all the outdoor galleries and spaces, and now there's 2 buildings or 3 indoor galleries that are part of the complex. The first building, called the Discovery Building, is the larger of the 2 buildings, and it's made up of 2 spaces, 2 classrooms. It also has a greenhouse and toilets and office. And those 2 spaces, one is a herbarium and one is a lab, and they're basically used as classrooms where either families drop in with their kids or school groups come and plant science education occurs. Then the restoration of this particular building is going to be comprised of 2 things. One is the original 2 spaces, each were originally designed more as an exhibition space. And so the built-in furniture was actually installed in the middle of the spaces. So as it developed into a classroom, it didn't function so well. Over the years, they've accommodated the way it's been set up, but the restoration of the building, the renovation is going to change that. And so the first step is to take all that built-in furniture and move it to the walls that has all the cabinetry and bookcases. And that will open up the space so that as a classroom or multi-purpose use space, it'll be very flexible and functional. As that's done, all the finishes in the spaces will be restored or will be new. New sinks, new flooring, new wainscot on the walls. And that will restore the space and allow it to be used as a more flexible space for the various programming that occurs. The other part of the restoration of this building is to make it more energy efficient. So the mechanical system will be upgraded. And what they're going to do is upgrade the fan coils and the compressors, the part of the system that creates the cold or hot air, and reuse the infrastructure, all the ductwork that's there. And this way we'll be saving energy. And then the other part of that is lighting, and all the existing lighting will be replaced with energy efficient LED lighting, which will allow us to control things better and use less energy. There are also some small improvements to the exterior. Then the second building that's close by is called, part of the complex is the Dodge Center. And that's made up of one large multi-purpose space, and then a few spaces around it. That currently is programmed as a multi-purpose space and is used less often than the others. That will also have the same restoration where we'll have new cabinetry installed on the sides of the space, all new finishes. And another important aspect of this is creating a family restroom so that this building doesn't currently have a restroom. It'll have one, which allows the people in that space to have a toilet, but as well as it's connected to the exterior so that if the main space is closed, people on the exterior can come and use the bathroom as well. And then the second part of this restoration is for energy efficiency, and we'll be installing new mechanical fan coils and compressors, utilizing the existing ductwork, and we're going to be installing new LED lighting to increase the energy efficiency.
And that is it. So, Rand, we're happy to take questions if anyone has any questions.
What is the time frame for this rehab?
Sure, very good question. So we're currently waiting for the city to approve. We are getting funding through the city. We're waiting for them to approve our grant agreement. We're hoping that we might have that approval by the year's end, and then we would actually start in the beginning of 2023. It's entirely possible it may take longer than that. We're timing it related to the school year because it is heavily used by school groups. So we'll either take it out of use at the beginning of a semester, or we'll take it out of use. We also use it for summer camps. So we take it out at the beginning of the summer. So An optimistic start would be the beginning of 2023. More likely, it's going to be summer, the beginning of the summer of 23.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question in reference to labor, right? Are you guys at all contacting building trades in reference to this construction? And if you're using city funding, you're going to be using prevailing wage. Are you going to be assuring local hiring during this process?
So because we do have city funding, we have lots of requirements and we meet all the city requirements to be able to utilize city funding. We do go through a public procurement process. So it is lengthy and whatever, the standard requirements of the New York City funding is the route we would utilize. So, and yes, we do have to pay prevailing wage as you indicated. Anybody else?
Yes, I have a quick question. What is the age range of the children that you are building this for?
Good.
I can answer that.
Sure.
I mean, I can answer that if you see that, can you put the map
All the way at the beginning.
at the beginning, all the way at the beginning? Yeah, no, yeah. So you can see that this, the entire garden and all galleries are arranged and organized or grouped in 3 different categories and based on learning modes or learning experience. So we have a self-directed, which is towards the north, which is for the older kids. And then towards the south, we have facilitated galleries that are always with instructors. And as Ursula also talked a little bit more about this for the smallest learners, toddlers and infants. So that's how it is organized.
Right. We have a lot of explainers. They're volunteers. They tend to be high school age, but it tends not to go past middle school. And the younger, the early learners, as Slavika just said, is a current population that we don't service. That's why we're expanding some of the areas to include interesting activities for them to participate in.
Andrew, you have a question?
Yeah. Actually, one comment and a question. I'll start with the comment first. Here's my complaint. I'm an adult. I'm not a child. I want to be able to participate in this wonderful. Do you have a height and weight require? Anyway, that's a joke. My serious question is, how much of this will be accessible to people who have mobility impairments or disabilities?
The entire garden will be accessible, even that tree canopy walk. The path that goes up to it is accessible. That's why it actually goes as long as it does, and it has to zigzag back in. And then the platform area, which has overlooks, will be entirely accessible. Currently, the garden is accessible, and so we're just supplementing that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any last further questions? Okay, so if not, then we can move on to the next item.
Thank you all.
Chad, we have to
Unless-
take a vote. They're asking for a letter of
Motion.
support.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Okay, so
I missed
maybe
that part.
we take whoever's sharing the screen, if they take it down, it would be helpful. So we can vote.
Yeah.
So we put a motion on the table. I move for a letter of support. Andrew, you
Presented
can do it.
Botanical Gardens.
Can you repeat?
Can you repeat the motion, please?
Motion to support the project as presented by the Bronx Botanical Gardens.
I'll second.
Avila seconds.
All right, Michelle second that. Okay. Any questions, observations, whatever? All right, so we can vote, I guess.
Barbara Stronzer,
Barbara Stranza votes yes.
Eric Asensio,
Eric Asensio votes yes.
Betty Arce. Betty Arce. I'll come back to her.
I'm here, I'm sorry, Chair, I keep having difficulty unmuting. Betty Arce votes yes.
Okay, thank you. Yahara Arias. Not on. Michelle Avila,
Michelle Avila votes yes.
Andrew Leosa,
Andrew Leosa supports the motion.
Emmanuel's on leave. Edgar Ramos,
Edgar Ramos abstains on this vote.
Lourdes Acosta, not on. Chad Royer, I approve the motion. Victor Saldana,
Victor Saldaña approves.
1, 2, 3, 4. So the motion passes. We
Yes.
have seven yeas, 1 abstention, motion passes. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you for presenting with us today,
thank you for having us. We
Yeah.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much.
of course.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
So next on the agenda,
Yeah.
we will discuss the open meeting law discussion and a vote. So I'd like to defer this to either Barbara or Aisha.
Well, I'm gonna defer to the chair first and then we'll go.
Okay, as you know, we will soon be going back to in-person meetings per the regulation of New York State. There will be a few changes, I understand. Originally, they said we had to make the change as of June 9th, but I think Aisha has some more updated information on that. And I am asking her to present the information. Go ahead, Aisha.
All right, this is going to be fun. So all right. So as you know, open meeting law is pretty much how we've been running our meeting remotely, following the guidelines and directive giving under the previous Governor Cuomo, and now Governor Kathy Hochul. I've updated the guidelines several times to reflect the executive order, which you have all been reading. But in recent, sorry, I'm just looking for the document. Recently, there has been an executive order to go back in person with the effective date of June 9th. They've recently updated that in the last 48 hours to be June 14th. Now, what does that mean for us? It means that we will have to go back in person as of June 14th. And I sent an email out to the committee chairs saying June 9th, obviously that has been extended. So that would affect several committees. Now, the best way to, in my opinion, to handle this would be, well, you have two options, right? Whatever committees are meeting post June 14th, I'll find you a remote location, as well as a general board meeting, or we can choose for those committees to double up in the calendar. And I'll share those two options visually so you can see what I've put together. It doesn't have to be that way, right? I've doubled it up in what I thought made sense, right? Or you can pick an alternative date. We'll have two Zoom running at the same time. Of course, what I took into consideration is the overlap, right, of members, making sure that you're not here, not there, right? So we worked on that. And then the general board meeting will be in person. What is that, June 28th, right? And right, so those are the potential options. Now, let me explain what the alternative is and why it won't work, right? Because I know you hear hybrid and it sounds like a great idea, right? But execution of it has not been thought through because that's not the stage jobs, right? The stage job is to kind of like throw out this random option. And the goal, I think the state's goal was to not make it easy, so it's no longer an option in the future, right? Before I give you the scenario of what hybrid would look like, I do want to say that I believe, and so do many legislators, that given the rising numbers of COVID, that the June 14th will be extended to the end of the month. So to be honest with you, I don't anticipate us having an issue for the remainder of the month. But for the sake of planning, right, and anticipating that it's not, this is why we're having this conversation. So this is why hybrid won't work, right? Hybrid won't work because 1, we don't have the equipment. 2, we operate remotely in different locations, right? So I don't have Wi-Fi to travel with. I cannot expect the staff to not work 9 to 9 because they're our union. I cannot give this equipment, if we had it, right, to board members, right? I have to give it to staff. I have no expectation that my staff now go travel the train with expensive equipment. Not to mention that, let's say we have a meeting at, I'm trying to think of Servian Gardens. I can't assume that for safety reasons, right? Or, for safety reasons, they are going to share their Wi-Fi. That's an issue, right? Which is something that we've expressed to the borough presidents in hopes that they share that with the legislative body, that you can't just propose these laws, right, blindly and not realize what that means for boards. We're all on a fixed income, right? That's a thing. There's only one board in the Bronx that is equipped to do it, and that is Board 12. I'm sure most of you have either visited or know that they're in a former precinct. And so they have a large conference room that they can wire, and they can social distance, and they can host all their meetings there. We cannot do that because of the reasons I shared earlier. We have expressed to the borough president's office many times that they need to kind of communicate that with the state. So this is why it's kind of like also been extended until they kind of figure out how to help us. So the hybrid option, the way that would work, if in a perfect world we could do it, it would mean that obviously we lug around equipment and we are provided Wi-Fi from the institutions that we visit. It would allow the public to be able to either come in person or join in, but the only way that they would be able to join in is if physically we meet quorum in person. So it's a little complicated. We would have to poll the members to see who's showing up in order for us to do the hybrid model. So that would give board members with unique circumstances that the board would have to define what unique is, an opportunity to participate from their homes. But the only way that they can participate from their homes and vote is if the in-person quorum is met. Does that make sense? So that's part of what would be the hybrid model. But again, I would say all boards in the Bronx are going to opt into staying in person because we don't have the capacity to do the hybrid model. So if the board chooses, there is no motion that would take place. You would just kind of after June 14th, just go in person. If you choose the hybrid model, you need to have a public hearing about it and vote on it. And that would take place at the next general board meeting.
So
But again,
Aisha, there's nothing we have to do if we go to the in-person model. There's nothing we have to do tonight. It will just be announced at the general meeting and that's it.
Correct. Now, but we still need to kind of figure out what we're doing with these meetings, right? Because the option is, so let me share both calendars.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, Carla, something to me. Let me follow. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm sharing my screen. So I'm going to share option 1. So option 1 gives you obviously the way the meetings would normally run. And then from the 15th on, we'll give you an in-person option.
I don't
And-
see anything.
You can't see it?
No,
Oh,
no,
sorry.
Your Outlook calendar.
okay.
Oh, I have to share. My bad. I know what I did wrong. Sorry. All right, better?
Yeah.
Okay, so here you see the meetings as usual, right?
I don't see
Education is
anything.
first.
I'm sorry. I just see like a little miniature, is that?
Yeah, that's what we're looking at, the miniature scale.
Calendar.
It's a little
Oh, let me,
tiny-
Survey of Gardens, okay, June 28th.
so let me, no, I can zoom in. Just give me a sec.
Okay, go ahead when you're
Is
ready.
that better?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah.
I can't see it at all.
Yeah, I can't go any higher, like bigger than that. 'cause
Okay,
it'll
now I
absorb.
can see it. Okay.
Oh,
fine.
okay.
All right.
So you can, sorry.
We're looking at the calendar, right? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
we're looking
saying?
at the calendar. This is option 1, right? Which puts us in person post the 14th. And Servium Gardens for many reasons. It has parking, it's accessible, it has huge space, and they're willing to give it to us for all the days we need. And this is a quick fix
Oh,
because
wonderful.
turnaround time is hard. That would be option number 1. This would be option. Oh, what did I do here? Sorry, bear with me.
June 28th is a primary day, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
It's a
That's fine, we can
primary
move it. The calendar's not out. I'm just trying to get this first.
Move it a day.
One problem at a time. Today's been a very hectic
know.
day with open meeting law. All right, so here we are. So this puts us at remote, oh no, is it this one?
Thursday. the
Yeah,
That's
15th.
the
this
remote.
puts us in all remote before the 14th. Again, this is suggestive. This is not etched in stone. So don't look at the links or any of that. This is just more for dates. So on the 1st, we'll put education and veterans together. Again, not etched in stone. This is just me trying to like move things where there isn't an overlap in membership, right? But we can change that. I know, Chad, you're still figuring out whether or not you're going to meet, but I'm putting it up there because it's one of those meetings that's after the 14th. Traffic would kind of be on its own. The 7th would be environment and health. The 8th would be parks and parks on its own. The 9th would be public safety, potentially with ad hoc, the bylaws, since there isn't an overlap. And again, that's up to Myrna. She hasn't given us a date. This is just me figuring it out. The 13th is the housing meeting, and the following date can, that Thursday, the executive can meet, and this is where we kind of push all the meetings up. And of course, the general board meeting happens on the 28th. In this case would be the 29th, right? Usually when there's a primary, we move it to that following Wednesday. Which those are the options right now. But again, I'll be honest with you.
The 14th is a Tuesday, not a Thursday. June 14th is a Tuesday.
Hold on, let me put it up again.
June 14th. Yeah, he's right on that. It is a Tuesday.
Give me 1 second. Zaki, not right now, please. Not right now. Not right now, Zachariah. It's not, I'm sure it's not important. I'm sorry, my son is
It's
doing
okay.
remote
We
meetings.
understand.
All right, no problem.
So the 13th, okay, my bad. So then, okay, I think I know what I did here. So the executive will be on the Tuesday, we'll move housing to the 13th. Again, this is all suggestive. We can shuffle this around in a different way. But that's what we found to as a staff, looking at the calendar and look at everything that's going on to work. That would be the best option, in my opinion, that we push all the meetings up. But the way the state has been operating, it's very delayed at giving us answers. So I think that they'll give us an answer like maybe in another 2 weeks on whether or not they're extending it. I'm going to be honest with you. Unfortunately, we've been in limbo. Like today, we received the training on open meeting law, right? Like today, that's why I'm flustered, because I've had to get on Zoom with different people, call different people, because the way the law department explains things to us is as if we're attorneys. I'm not an attorney, right? And things that are practical in a board of trustees up in Westchester County doesn't work for a community board, right? So it's like one size does not fit all. So I've had to kind of deep dive into getting these questions answered. And again, this is not unique to Board 7 nor to the Bronx, right? This is something all 59 community boards are facing. Unfortunately, most of boards operate in remote location where they cannot give us Wi-Fi. I mean, we're going through that issue now where we're trying to get an alternative space for the community board and in a city building, and it's a VPN issue, it's a privacy issue. We're trying to share space with HRA, and HRA is not going to share their Wi-Fi for obvious reasons, right? It's privacy. So, I mean, all these things are real. I know someone said you can stream from a phone. I can't stream from a phone because if I lose service, I can't anticipate that my phone is going to work there. And if it shuts off, like, we're just not equipped to do that. I am a fan of a hybrid option in the future. Granted, we're given the tools to successfully implement this and work with respective institutions in the Bronx, but we do not have the capacity to do that right now. So we collectively as the Bronx, we're all pushing for,
How'd you get it?
I'm sorry?
How did you get it?
Oh, she's not talking to us. So I'm not sure, I'm not sure if I confuse you even more or I failed to answer something. So I'll take some questions just in case, to clarify more. I know, Edgar, you had a question?
Yeah, actually, it's a comment and a question. The comment is the problem with the situation we have to be careful with Serbian Gardens, right? If we go to the auditorium, that auditorium has no cell service. So more than likely, it's not going to have any outside Wi-Fi availability. So that might be an issue. If we were in that auditorium, not the auditorium, remember that open area where we had a meeting one time? I think it's a church or it's just a religious area for different denominations. Like there, we'll probably have service. But if we go into that auditorium, we're going to be very, very limited as far as service.
So us going at the general board meeting in June would not require us to do hybrid.
Right.
It's one of the,
that's just a concern about that location. The other question I have is the elected officials and the city agencies. We've been getting kind of good where a lot of city agencies and elected officials have been joining our meetings because of Zoom. They're able to do multiple things in a day and not have to physically be at the site. What do we do about that?
I unfortunately did not write the law. I'm interpreting the law as best we see fit. I hear you. I'm all for it. If it was up to me, I would hope that the city of New York would follow the state's guidelines and provide community boards with the equipment and staffing, right, to continue to provide this opportunity for the public and board members, of course. But unfortunately, that is not the case, right? It's like the chicken came before the egg here. The best part is that we are going into June, right? So we can easily just kind of let this, kind of simmer over the summer and see what decisions are being made. But I think the better part of it is that we have an opportunity to potentially exercise hybrid. Granted, we're given the resources later on, but I want everyone to understand that while hybrid sounds great, the onus is on the staff, and I cannot ask my staff to work 9 to 9, 14 times a month. That is violation of their union rights. I know I cannot ask them to come in from 12 to 9 because that's not the expectation that they were hired on. So there are many implications to that. No, I cannot give equipment to board members. We don't have replenishable money where if something breaks, we can easily replenish it. There needs to be, the city of New York needs to have a plan that aligns with the state's regulations in order for community boards to exercise that in the near future. But in terms of like your concerns over Wi-Fi, we do Servium at the general board meeting in June. If they don't extend the directive, no, we're going in person. That wouldn't be an issue. But you're right, it's going to limit some folks that have gotten comfortable with that system, that has facilitated other community board members that may have, caregiving responsibilities, health conditions, work late hours. I'm with you on that concern, and it has been expressed Barbara attended that meeting. It has been expressed to the borough president's office with the expectation that the borough president's office obviously communicate that with the legislative body. But that's kind of like where we're at in layman's terms.
Just,
Chad, Victor,
just
and
on
then
the side
Betty.
real quick,
Yeah.
just Victor, do me a favor, check your chat, Victor. Thank you.
Hi, I'm having dinner too. Chad?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the calendar, and if we were to assume that we have up to the 14th, that only leaves the 1st, the 2nd, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, and the 14th, excluding Mondays, excluding Fridays. There's a real possibility, like I mentioned, that I may not be able to have the meeting for another reason. Some may not be able to attend, and I have to travel. So my case is kind of unique. I would like to try to have something earlier or extremely later, but it may not be possible.
And
I'm
that's
just being honest.
Yep, that's the choice of you and your committee. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's totally like your choice. I'm expressing, I'm helping set the tone for options
Right.
because right now, I'm gonna be honest with you, we're it's been rough, you know. The
Right.
training was today, this morning. It's not like we're giving clear directive on things or you know, equipment or
So if it makes it easier to minus at least one committee, hopefully that helps. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, not my
To
desire
bump
at all.
something
But
up.
yeah.
I got it. Victor?
Thanks, Isha. So it is concerning. One thing I'm not sure if is this the best forum, or if you can answer this, Isha, but is there any way to have the smaller committee meetings sort of remote and then the general board meeting to be in person? Or would this be a good opportunity now to start merging committees because it's too many meetings?
I agree with everything you said, but all right, so let me answer the first thing. We do have the choice to have only hybrid options. We don't have the choice of remote or in person. Does that make sense, Victor? Like it's not
It's not
That's
one
not-
of the just one. Okay.
correct. Like I unfortunately, right? Does any of this make sense for an institution like community boards? Absolutely
No.
not. And even as I'm telling you out loud, I'm like, what am I even saying, right? Like it sounds crazy, right? But unfortunately, I got on about 3 Zooms today to make sure that I was very clear before I came here tonight. So no, Victor, yes, I think it's a great idea to merge committees in the future, of course, that best accommodates the issues. I'm sorry, Victor, I feel like I missed something.
That was
No, I
it.
think that was it pretty much. If we can start, because as we move, right, we have until September to try to merge committees. That way, I'm just thinking about quorum, right? I feel like we might lose people from the public, but we might even lose committee members not being able to join the committees whenever, and some committees might not have quorum because there's not enough committee members.
It's going to
Yeah,
be difficult for all of us after 2 years being online to get back to in-person meetings. It's going to be a big adjustment.
Yeah, and these are all valid concerns. I don't know what the amended law is going to be moving forward. I will share that if the hybrid option is something that is imposed in any way, or we decide to use it because the city does furnish equipment, this is where the issue will arise. We have roughly about 3 to 4 board members that join from a landline. If they do not connect from a computer, they will not be able to be board members. Because if we choose the hybrid option, they would have to be visible and be heard at all times, not the screens where you leave your names. That will not be accepted.
Exactly.
So just to be clear, you know, there's going to be some sort of disparity. So my recommendation to the borough president's office today, and, you know, Barbara, she's been on meetings with me and she can tell you, I've been very, very vocal on our concerns that when they appoint board members, this needs to be made very clear. And I don't think enough clarity is expressed when you appoint board members, because I think they don't understand the commitment sometimes, right? They don't understand the requirement. And now they're not going to understand the fact that, hey, if you no longer have the capacity of, or don't have the capacity of this, you cannot, subscribe to be a board member. But they're also at limbo because they don't know what the legislator is going to be doing moving forward, right? We're all anticipating that it will be extended to the end of June. I'm pretty sure, right, given the numbers, and it's only an additional 2 weeks, so I think it will. But unfortunately, we have to prepare for that, if that doesn't happen. And the only preparation I find fit is that we bump these meetings up so we don't lose people, at least for this month, until the state figures it out. And if we have to have the general board meeting in person that one time, and pray that we meet quorum in person.
Yeah, that's
That
it.
would be it. And if you want me to go into explain what hybrid means in terms of voting, I can do that.
That's all right. We have another question, Betty. Go ahead.
It's not so much part of it is a question or just raising the general point of, with the increase in COVID cases that have been reported lately, I would hope that that at the very least that we can finish off the year virtual. It just seems ridiculous that for the last month to impose this at this time, especially then because of the increase. And for me personally, it is going to be a hardship. Very similar to Chad, I have caretaking responsibilities now that I didn't have before. I may be able to try to work around it. My one recommendation would be, if we have to go back in person, I have been moving my meetings to begin at 7 o'clock. My committee members have appreciated that because many of them work or are busy, and 7 o'clock seems to be an okay time. I'm going to recommend that we consider maybe moving the meetings to a later time to give people an opportunity. For me in particular, I would need time to get to wherever the physical location is of a general board meeting, or if we have a committee meeting someplace. But those are just the two things that I want to raise. One, that hopefully we can finish off the year the way we started it. And then moving forward, we have some other options in terms of start times for for our meetings. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, Betty, that's you hit it right on the nose. It's unfortunate that some decisions are made on one size fits all model, right, and not taking into consideration community boards' uniqueness to those municipalities across the state. And in terms of the time, that's obviously the committee's discretion, right?
Definitely.
In terms of the general board meeting, that is a conversation for the exec to kind of figure out if they're moving the time. But as you know, public session does take place first. So it gives the board members ample time to arrive at a remote location, because what, Barbara, like probably like 7:15, it doesn't even start.
Yeah,
So
20-25, usually almost an hour.
Yeah, so
that's it.
Yeah, that could work, right?
It works.
Yeah, but in terms of committees, I feel like people need to get more information with.
Okay.
Making
We have
comments.
another hand. Go ahead, Michelle.
I agree that I think we should finish off the year remote. I mean, I think it's too much disruption at this point. And with the rise in COVID cases, I mean, we just had someone from DOHMH relay that the city's alert went back to high this week at our committee meeting. So I can't imagine, asking folks to sit in an indoor space that may or not be properly ventilated, to sit through presentations. And I agree with everything that folks have said about like wanting to explore a hybrid option, because I do think that, the remote option has opened up the forum to folks that wouldn't otherwise be able to join. So I would love to think about that and maybe provide some recommendations during the summer if we are moving to that for the fall. But I agree 100% that we should continue remote to finish this year.
Yeah, I agree with you, Michelle. I think that the city should explore hiring or expanding the Do It department to accommodate boards in this process, but that becomes a funding request. That's something that we've been speaking to the council members about that, because I think that we're relying on the state to give direction, but at this point we need the city to fund it, right? Like that's kind of how it works for us. And it should be explored, but right now, just to be clear, that you have to understand the burden of work that I cannot put on the staff. They were hired with an expectation and a salary. They weren't hired to be technicians. I'm not putting their safety on the line by putting them on a train with expensive equipment. Unfortunately, like the immediate options will not happen. They are union, right? And obviously, as a district manager, I'm not expected to work around the clock, right? Like you can't just change someone's schedule and then the office hours are not there. So there's a lot of things that need to be addressed, but I would say that the onus is on the city of New York to kind of expand potentially on their Do It department services to provide this to all 59 community boards, right? Maybe under the direction of the Bronx Borough President office. We've shared a lot of different options with the Borough President's office. Now, as you know, with committees, just to be clear, committees don't require community engagement. They don't. And I think there's a huge misconception on that. Committees only require the public to listen. The committee has the discretion to allow for public comment or not. It's at the general board meeting where there's the public hearing / public session, that is the opportunity for the public to comment on voting items. Hence, that's where the actual action takes place, right, of the board.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that was something that everyone knows, right, before they think that we are like changing process. But for the most part, committees have allowed that engagement, so it's been fine. Andrew?
Yeah, this issue came up in the chat. What would be the problem with using the wonderful BronxNet facilities at Neiman College?
That's roughly $20,000 a year.
That ends
I
that.
hope that answers that question. And also keep in mind that Board 12 does use it, right? They use it, but they're also in a DCAS building where they're wired differently and they use their own Wi-Fi.
Right.
So with that said, BronxNet could come, but we have to have our Wi-Fi accessible to them to stream. I hope that answers the question, which I mentioned earlier about the Wi-Fi impediment, right? Because we can't ask these institutions to
More Wi-Fi, yep.
Right, it's privacy, right?
Right, exactly. Okay.
So, just to kind of share that.
Yeah, thank you. We'll move the agenda.
No, wait, but Barbara, I need to kind of on the record that no votes is taking place and that you're choosing the in-person option. There is no vote that has to take place, but I just want clarity that that's how we're moving forward.
Well, if we can't vote or we don't have to vote, then.
No, I just want to make clear that I'm
choice. Yeah, I don't think we have a choice at this.
Okay, just want to.
Considering equipment, the lack of an office, whatever. And it is June, the weather is warmer. And if you remember 2 years ago, everything was in person. So it'll take us a while to get back.
So is everybody okay with me bumping up committees and sending it to the exec? And then you all you have to do is respond and say, well, the 7th doesn't work for me. I want this day instead. But I want to make sure that you reply all so everyone sees it, right?
So when you bump up, it'll be the same night, but there'll be 2 different Zoom meetings going on. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, no problem.
2 different links. Things are not going to be the same, right? So like, let's say if I'm bumping up health, right? Typically we're bumping them up.
Right.
Health will no longer have the same login, right? Now I'll have to.
All right, that seems fair if it's okay with the committee chairs.
So,
But I'll send it. I'm sorry.
Just to be clear, when you say bump up, it's like trying to get all the meetings before the 16th? Is that
Well,
what-
before the 14th, yes.
Before, I'm sorry, the 14th?
Right.
The thing is, I know, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be extended to the end of the month, but I can't wait to send the calendar anticipating
Right,
that. So we
right.
have to kind of take action now.
Okay, all right, so there may be two meetings occurring on the same evening.
Right.
Maybe, okay. all
Right. And the way it is now, and we'll send it out in the morning, is I did it thinking of making sure that there is no overlap in membership,
Okay.
Right.
because you can't be in two places at once.
And we're excluding Mondays and Fridays if we do that, right?
We're not. I mean, it's free game at this point. Just don't do it on a
Okay.
Friday. Please don't
No
do it on a
Friday.
Friday.
No,
But
I
like
can do a
Mondays, like
Monday.
Monday's there,
Yeah.
though.
like I would say, please don't do Fridays.
Yeah,
I can't
no,
breathe
no.
on
Yeah,
Fridays. Like
I
I'm
won't
already
do Friday.
working.
I won't do
No.
Friday.
Yeah, I would say use a Monday if you need to. That's kind of like what I did. I moved
Right, if you have to,
housing into
right.
Monday and Zach into Tuesday,
makes
but
sense.
Eric could turn around and say, hell no, I don't want a Monday. So again, these are all suggestions. You just got to come back to me and tell me this is not what I want. Or even I would say, even try to communicate with each other before you apply. If you wanted to swap out, let's say, I'm using random names. Chad, you don't like the first, you're gonna call Michelle and I'm like, look, I should set the 7 for you. Do you mind swapping that off? Whatever works for you, if you guys can communicate on your own, if you want to, works for me. I just need confirmation from all of you. If not, you're gonna get
Okay.
bombarded with emails and
Um,
phone calls of like,
Andrew put in the chat that he feels that there should be a motion that we support this. So if we
Who?
want to
I'm sorry,
take a
who's that?
vote,
What?
Andrew put in the chat that he feels there should be a motion to support this.
To support what?
What you just
The
said, moving
plan
up the
of-
meeting, the
of
plan.
moving up, because
It's not a requirement.
Okay, all right, so then,
I took the training today. It is not, it's only a vote if you're going hybrid.
okay,
Meaning nothing is changing. You're taking a vote for something that is gonna happen anyway. So it's kind of silly to take a vote on something that is happening anyway outside of our hand because the law has been already passed.
all right, I think, Andrew, did you mean that, or did you mean, doubling up on some committee meetings?
I just think that for the public's sake, it would become clear that the board decided to do this and it wasn't arbitrarily decided upon by board staff or the district manager.
The reason why I'm saying there is no action taken, Andrew, is because we have no choice. So you're voting on something that you have no choice on. You have to go in person as of the 14th. No matter what, hybrid is just an addition to. So you're voting on something that you have to do anyway.
Do you mean that aspect, Andrew, or do you mean the fact that we're moving committees that meet after the 14th up to earlier in the month?
Correct, yes.
Yes? Did you hear me?
Yeah, he said, yeah.
Yes? All right, is there a feeling you want to vote on that, or? No, I mean, to me, it makes sense.
I mean, you don't,
All right, so if no
It's up
one
to you.
feels we should vote,
Everybody basically stated that they're willing to move up, or they believe moving up the dates of the meetings would be the most functional thing for us to do. And that's something we control in-house, so we shouldn't have to vote on it, right? Because
right,
pretty much everybody agrees. I don't think there's been
Okay.
one person saying that that was not a good idea.
right, and if we make it a motion, we'd have to bring it to the full board and whatever, so I think, we should deal with. what we
also
have right now.
communicate with your committee members. That's a
Yes, yes.
recommendation that I'm saying to also, that's something we've said in the past, where it's like, don't make choices for your committee, because if someone plans, right, childcare, life, right, around this specific date every month, and now we're just like dictating the changes, it's important that you communicate with your committee before you respond with a date. So we have roughly a week, right?
Okay,
Oh my gosh, do we?
sounds,
Yeah, a couple of days. So, but I'll send out obviously the calendar and the options, and
that'll help. All right, can we move
Andrew
on
has
to
a
the next?
question, Barbara.
Oh, did he put his hand up again? Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, so I'm just concerned that the regular board member will feel that a decision was made without them having any kind of input. I know they should trust the leadership, but I just feel, uncomfortable with that dynamic. As it is, it kind of exists, and I think that if we did a motion, we could avoid it. But I will go with the party, and we don't have
What
to do
if-
it.
Just let me be clear, you're making a motion to bump up the meetings. The motion is still unclear because it doesn't have dates.
But,
Andrew,
but chairpersons have the ability to move their meeting
Right.
date to whatever date
Correct,
they
of
want.
course, with the, with
So,
the agreement
with
of
the
the
help-
members, yeah.
and the help of the staff, so why would, and the members still show up?
right, and my feeling is too, if you feel you
Not-
want to check
not a-
with your members,
been a-
email
I
them
haven't been a-
tomorrow and get back to Aisha and the staff about, you know, what you're going to do. If their choice is moving it up and having a Zoom meeting or leaving it where it is and having to meet in person. Let them decide that. Andrew?
I just feel that a general board, in the event that a general board member who's not an appointed member of a committee showed interest in a specific committee and had attended in the past, might feel that, you know, they were excluded. But I guess I'm being overly sensitive, so it's
So
getting
Andrew,
late.
I'm gonna
Let's
flip
move.
it on you real quick. How about if that member was only attending because it was remote and now you're excluding them because you're making it in person? That's an argument to make too.
Right. Okay, we have 2 hands up and then we're going to move the agenda. You go ahead.
Just short, in our Veterans Committee meeting yesterday, we did bring it up both for our committee members and for the general public. We did raise these issues, not into as much details as you guys are going into because you have a lot more updated and a lot more information, but we did raise it, and we did raise the possibilities that basically we have no idea what's going to go on next month.
Okay, good point.
But that's very accurate, Ugo, the fact that we're rolling with the punches here. So I appreciate you doing
Right.
that.
Jean, go ahead.
Now, just quickly, since we will be doubling up the meetings, are they going to be at the same time or are they going to be at different times? The only reason I'm asking the question, like say you wanted to attend both meetings, how will we work that out?
You would have to use your phone and your PC if you want to do that.
Right,
And just double up and use 2 different devices?
exactly.
That's my recommendation. Listen, I've been on 2 Zooms.
No, I
without
have
a
2, but
choice.
I'm just trying to work it out in my head. I've done 3 Zooms at the same time and ran around the house in different rooms.
Listen, that's the world we live in, Gene.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're
Jean,
settled
sorry.
on this issue. Go ahead.
Sorry, just one follow-up for Jean's comment.
Yes.
And the multiple Zoom meetings, I believe on the computers, at least, you're able to attend different Zoom meetings. I think we had a couple of people from the city at our president, our committee meetings, and at the same time being at other meetings because they're doing it via the same computer. So you may not need multiple devices if you have a computer present. That's all.
Thank you.
You
All
just
right,
need a good one.
You also need to know how to manipulate technology.
Right,
And
right.
that's something that I expressed earlier, the issue that we could have in the near future if hybrid is adopted with the right, obviously, tools, that folks that are logging in from a landline because they don't have a PC or because they will no longer be able to be board members if they don't allow the camera to be on at all times and be identified.
Okay. All right, are we ready to move on to the next item? Strategic policy statement, since you put it on the agenda, Aisha, go ahead.
Yeah, without a choice. Let me share my, sorry, I have so many things open. Today was one of those days full of training, so bear with me. Okay, so this is a memo that was sent. This pretty much says that according to Tom, and I can't speak to this because I wasn't here 4 years ago. I'm sorry, I'm trying to scroll down and I can't. All right, here we go. This is the memo that was sent for us to put together something called strategic policy statement. And in lame terms, what that means is pretty much what we do already with the statement of needs, right? Where you kind of identify the top 3 issues. You know how we do that? And we write a blurb or whatever.
Right.
Unfortunately, I will say that we did ask for a meeting for this to kind of be explained to us. So we do it the right way. We were not given that meeting. So the staff and I created a document to work from. The June 1st is not a hard deadline, but we should submit something. This is not something that should be voted on, right? This is us, as a board, to share the top 3. Just give me a second, I'm gonna pull it up now. I just have to go to different screens, which is a lot. I have to go to the drive. That's the only way I can update it in real time. Okay, it's here. I had the screen open. I don't know what happened to it. All right, can everyone see my screen? Yeah,
Yes,
I'm gonna try to zoom in a little
make it a
more.
little
Yeah,
larger if you can.
okay.
That's
Is that better?
Yes.
All right, so ignore the top for a second. Let me just scroll down. So this is what we have submitted to the Department of City Planning in the
Okay.
past, which is like, not in the past, in recent fiscal year, right? Which is land
Right.
use, schools, and the other is insufficient municipal services, right? Which all 3 have a correlation, of course, right? When you create more housing, there's an influx in students, therefore, we don't have enough seats, and then municipal services overall, right? Like sanitation, transportation, and so forth, right? So what we did is we kind of broke it down like this, where it's like the CB7 district specific, right? So they're asking us to do 1 to 3, they're not giving us a specific number of district-wide issues. And then 1, 2, 3, I'm sorry, 1 or 2 or 3, whatever, it's our choice, of borough-wide issues. So based on our existing statement of needs, and because this is more focused on long-term, I put Fordham Landing, Kingsbridge Armory, and of course the housing trends with the incorporation of schools and services, right? So we're covering not only the statement of needs, but because this is asking very clearly for long-term issues faced by the district, these obviously are stuff to kind of look at now, right? And express some stuff. So that's what I did to help this along, because if not, this would be, a couple of meetings. But I left some things blank, and obviously you are all free to modify, adjust, move. I was just trying to help this along. So here it asks you for a summary of the most, obviously the long-term issues. And as we know, these are all that. And the second one is like, you have to identify policy goals related to such issues. There are a lot of things that I couldn't really think of anything, so I'm deferring here. And the next one is propose strategies for such goals, right? So I'll go through them one by one, but I just wanted to share. In borough-wide, here I put infrastructure, right? We've seen fires because of lack of building enforcement, obviously increase in housing units without additional services was pretty much we express in the statement of needs, right? And it is a borough-wide issue, right?
Right.
Gun violence, right? Violent crimes, which we've seen obviously a rise, food insecurity. And the reason why I put food insecurity here is that there's a nonprofit called Bronx Impact. And, Michelle works with them closely, so she knows what I'm speaking. We've met with them several times, and they've identified food insecurity as a big Community Board 7 issue. And how they identify that as a Community Board 7 issue is that they have software that identifies Google searches and what do people search the most. And people in our district, outside of the obvious housing and jobs, it's food, right? So I put that down. You don't have to put that if you don't want. This is the board's discretion. I was just sharing, some thoughts that we put here to help you start. But in terms of like language and everything, this is something that you are all to discuss. So Barbara, go ahead, lead the way. If this is to be changed, modified, whatever, this was just, again, me trying to speed this along.
Oh, okay. I mean, I certainly agree with most of it. These are long-range goals, correct?
long-term issues that face, and obviously Fordham
Right.
Landing, it will be a long-term, the Armory for sure.
Yeah.
And then something that has been repetitive across the board for your statement of needs throughout the last decade has been the housing trends, right?
Yes, and if we could someplace put in the need for mixed income housing developments, due to the fact, I know Bedford Park, we have lost so many private homes that there's so little home ownership available for people.
So
in
you
Bronx.
could add that to
Could
housing
we add that?
trends, considering it's very broad. You can add that in policy related goals, maybe putting here, adding or getting funding to contribute to programs like the Open Door, which
Right, exactly, because that was
that's an
number
option.
one in our budget anyway in the past year or so.
But
And
it goes into housing trends. We can
right,
add there.
right, okay, so if you can put, any of that in,
Yeah.
that would be.
But first, you want to go line by line first and just ask for input, because this is me, this is not you.
Okay.
So like, you want to start reading and then let
All
see
right,
what hands
Fordham
you get.
Landing, CB7 has concerns with the existing vision expressed by the developer specifically around population density and the potential impact in the surrounding Fordham community. Anybody have a problem with that?
You can expand, by the way, on the next
Okay.
item, which is policy goals related to such issues, or even expand on this.
All right, anybody want to expand what was written or add a policy goal?
I think,
Question. Oh, I'm sorry.
the impact in the surrounding, but everything has a potential impact, potential negative impact in the surrounding Fordham community.
Okay, can we put that right in?
Barbara, so you have Chad, Jean, Andrew, and Eric. So in that order, remember when people put up their hands, it's by the order. So you can follow the order from the
okay.
top.
Oh,
All right, so
ignore
we'll
my hand.
start. We'll
Ignore my
start.
hand.
Okay, we'll start with Eric, go ahead.
I don't think that we should include this as an item, because we don't know anything about this project. We're just based on assumptions. Until we don't have something concrete from city planning or something that will be moving along this project, we just basically what we have heard.
Okay.
So
now
that's why it says the vision, because this vision, as to your point, Eric, you're right, it's not even in the infant stage yet. It has been shared with DCP. So there is some thought that has been put into it.
From my
And this was
understanding-
suggested this was suggested by the borough president's office, because the borough president's office is including this in their impact statement. And and they wanted us to express something, like not completely, in other words, like board said, this is what was shared with me, like we should be saying something, then so we can drive our own conversation versus, I hear what you're saying, Eric. I'm just sharing the message of like, it's being included anyway, right? And just so you know, this is not put together individually. The borough president's office takes this and goes like that to it, right? From across the Bronx.
Right, I understand. So if that's the case, then yeah, maybe we should have it, but I don't see how we can comment on something that we don't know.
All right, Jean, you have.
Very fair, and I agree with you.
Okay.
But it's
Question, and I don't know if this fits into anything. We had a group that came to the veterans meeting and they talked about home ownership, because Barbara brought up something that sparked in my head. Can we promote that, groups that come in that tell us how to get home ownership, and the home ownership also apply to condos and co-ops? Does that fit into any place in here?
Well, we were going to add it to housing trends and.
Yeah, housing trends, yes.
Since we're losing so many private homes.
So I
throughout
want to
the
be very
district.
clear that this is something we should not spend this much time on. This is not our statement of needs. This is
Okay.
something like, it's a very quick expressing or just kind of being redundant to the statement of needs.
All right,
So
now
this
this
is
is
to be
the
very
first
brief.
time I have seen this. Do you think you could send the copies of what you put together out to the executive committee tomorrow, and we could make a statement or two or whatever and then get it back? Because I think we're going to be here all night if we have to read this and make comments.
I
And
just want to
whatever.
make sure that the chairs at this effect, Eric expressed his opinion that everything is taken into consideration and that everybody hears it.
Yeah,
I think
I
that's
mean-
important.
Right.
I'm not trying to impose anything. I just want to make sure that I shared
Oh,
what
yeah,
the borough
right.
president
And
said, as
I
well
mean-
as, while there is nothing, and I agree, there's nothing to share, there's nothing on this Fordham Landing project, but they have expressed what their vision could be. And I think it's important that maybe we do say something. I don't know. I just wanted to put it out there. If you don't, I can
Well,
take it
I
off. But
think if you lived in Fordham Hill, you'd be upset about it and would want it included, I would think.
yeah, I mean, it's a
Because
scary,
it's
but I
going to
mean,
have a huge impact on that area. It has
but
to.
but to balance out like the devil's advocate point here, it's like there's nothing that could turn around and have 2% of what he shared, right? So it is kind of anticipated, but I mean, this is why I was quoted in the city article when I said, based on the vision, a project of this magnitude is always of a concern to a community board, considering, the amount of units that are coming in and the lack of services that are not coupled with that, right? So, and by the way, it is the district manager's job, along with the chair, to have these meetings informally before they come to the board so they can know what to say to the board. There is nothing illegal about that, just for clarification.
Okay, we have a few more hands up here, so let me see.
Jean, are you done? Because your hand's still up.
Yeah, and so is
Okay.
Andrews, but I want to get to some of the others. Edgar, go ahead, and then Michelle.
I just have a thing, because I guess as we move forward with the rezoning of that, right? I guess that would clarify more of what's being done there, and then that would be able to be added purposefully on our document once we get that clarification, which should be part of the rezoning process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like one of those things. You want to do the right thing to comment, right? But then it's like you also like speaking out of context. So like I get it.
Yeah, okay. All right, Michelle, go ahead, and then Andrew.
Actually, you're gonna send this around, right? So that we could give some more input. Yeah, I just would want to ensure that we include a health-related one,
Right.
since it's such a big, it's also a big concern that always comes up year after year. So that's my only comment, like wanting to monitor that. And I know that you included the food access and gun violence, which I think are really relevant topics right now. So I will probably be adding to those.
Okay, Andrew? Oh, go ahead. Is that a new question, Andrew, or you didn't take your hand down?
No, it's a new,
Okay, go
Yeah, I
ahead, you're on.
yeah, I just did a Google search. I mean, like Bronx Fordham Landing Project. There's like 10 different postings. The real deal, dynamic star files, so 602 unit project at
Yeah.
Fordham Landing, dated November 11th,
I
2021.
understand that, Andrew,
Sure.
but there's nothing from
Saying
any
Fordham
city
Landing
agency that has come through the board that would
Right.
state, what exactly is going on.
That's
An
right.
article could be written about any project, but that doesn't mean that that is exactly what's happening.
Exactly.
I know that. Still, especially if the borough, anyway, especially if the borough president is whatever. Okay.
I mean, you can, when I was quoted with the article, again, I couldn't comment to a project that's a vision, right? So I could only comment to what they express potentially to put. And obviously housing trends is the biggest deal to us, right? So
Right.
commenting on potential density, right, and the impact on a community was a very neutral statement to make, because that's always the fear of any project that expresses interest of that magnitude, right? So if you don't want to put it, you don't want to put it. I just wanted to put it out there that maybe you stick to that notion, right? So there's a sense to the developer or not, right? But because it said long-term issues, we can also talk about the parcel itself, right? We can say that the parcel itself, like you can talk about the parcel because technically that's where it's at, right? I don't know. That's up to you guys. I'm just trying to help the conversation along, based on obviously my knowledge. I was born and raised in the district, the work that you all have been putting collectively over the years, right? And if you look at all the needs statement that you've done, even that precedes me, this has been it, right?
Right.
With the exception of Fordham Landing, of course.
Right. Okay, we'll move on.
So I'll send this out.
Yes,
If you
that
want
would
to take
be
this off,
helpful.
that's your call. But again, I think that it's important that we take into consideration everybody's opinion, especially the housing chair.
Oh, yes,
I'm not
definitely.
saying both sides here because it's important that we share. Maybe we find a way to share it.
Okay.
One last comment. I added in the chat a link to the small business services, community, commercial needs assessment that was done, and there's one specifically for Bedford Park and Norwood, and another one for Fordham that it was really surprising as to what they think the community needs.
Oh, all right. Good point. Thank you.
We should talk about that in
'cause-
your next meeting.
Yeah,
Yes,
like it was like,
definitely. Bring it to your next meeting too.
apparently we have at least 70% of the services provided is beauty, like barbershops, beauty salons, nails, etc.
Wow. Okay. All right, we'll move on to Bronx CB7's
Needs,
statement of needs.
Oh man, this is the fun part, right, Eric?
big one.
Yep.
Oh, it's a thrill. All right, it's a thrill because it's a very long process, but I think a very important one. So I'm going to share my screen again. Give me a second. I have to pull up what I sent to you all. And again, at this point, I've sent this so much over the years, right? It's the same thing. We just want to get an early start on it. Just give me one sec. I think
Good question, Aisha. Maybe this is too soon, but do we have a due date for this to be done, or it's too early?
I'm sorry, the statement of needs, this?
Yeah.
In a perfect world, we are done in October voting on this.
That's right.
But it's very hard because, you know, you're gonna get new members in September, right? So yeah. So October to answer your question, Chad, but they'll take it in November.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, but this needs to be discussed and voted on, public hearing and all.
Right.
But so it's a process, you know, and then let's also talk about that, the administrative process. There's a lot of inputting into the system once you are all done. And that takes me quite some time. Eric can tell you, Jahira, we've worked on this overnight sometimes because
Remember,
it's just.
I think one time it was 11 p.m.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give a lot of credit to Eric on this one for the last one. He listen, I'm grateful. All the work he put in, all the conversions of certain documents that we didn't have. He did flag for me that they send it into an Excel, so I put in a request to DCP to make it a little easier. But you know, Eric, I'm sorry, did you have a question to that?
I just wanted to add that I'm putting in the chat or community board, community profile, which is what city planning provides for a lot of this to happen. And in there, you can see the last statements since 2008, so that we can start seeing what we keep asking for and what has not been.
Yes.
Right, like we should go back, not just keep the same items.
Yeah.
Because if we're since 2008 we haven't gotten them, we need to move on and let go of those items and put ones that are going to benefit the community.
Eric, and
moving
to your
forward.
point, we need to find alternatives, Eric. I think you said this the last time, like we need to find alternative methods to getting what we want and not get fixed on this either. So if you see that something says, let's talk to your council member, don't leave it alone. Go take it to that committee, right? Like the committee should pick it up and go ahead and put a motion together to send a letter to the respective council member with that I can't say that word. The little explanation, right? Take that and say, hey, you know, this city agency said that maybe our respective council member can fund this, and take it a step further to Eric's point. So now you're taking away from the list, but you're not sitting on it, right? Like you're still pushing for the item in a different way, if that's what it in fact it says, right?
Okay, so we're
right. And I'm also adding a link to the capital planning plan. There you can see all the capital projects that are going on in the city, in the district, etc., that are these agencies have already have on track, on record, like what's going on. All this information is there, so we can start tracking this in a better way.
See, he's been, I don't know what would have done without you, Eric, for the last 2 years, really. But that's important. This is important to know.
Okay, so what do you need?
So let me go through this. Obviously, we're gonna pre-populate everybody's agenda. Grant, do your meeting in June. with this, right? Which we've done in the past in September. Now we're gonna bump it up, right? We're gonna bump it to June. So you have here 3 bullets, which is the reference guide.
Mhm.
Let me pull it up so I can just. Can everybody see my screen? Oh no,
Yes.
it's white. What's going on? Everybody sees this, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is pretty much, well, not exactly like this, but this is kind of how it looks on my end, right?
Right,
Where
yeah.
the C is capital, the E is expense, right? And it's broken down by agency, i.e. municipal services. I would say for the most part, some of our committees overlap exactly with this, right? So it's kind of like pick your agency, but you're not limited to the agency, right? Like, so feel free to give input. This is a board effort. It's just easier when you do it by committee. But this is the list of, this is the drop-down menu, right? Of things. So just to kind of briefly show that, you can look at that on your, oh, I need to take it out, sorry.
So in other words, we have to get working on this at the June committee meetings.
Right.
And be
Yeah.
ready to either retain or drop,
Yeah.
ask
let me share
requests
the
and
other
add
one.
new ones.
Let me
Totally
share
agree.
the other one. Sorry, Barbara, I just want to run
Go
through it
ahead.
real quick, just to refresh.
Okay,
So,
remember these.
yeah, so this helps you kind of assess the things that are, I'm sorry, the most pressing issues. So you pick 3. That's kind of how we do our statement of needs, right? And we already have that, which is, what is it? Housing, schools, and municipal services, right,
City
Eric? Yeah.
services,
And
yeah.
municipal services.
And then, but I have to, well, when I put in system, I have to do it by, after you do the top 3, then you have to do it by issue, right? So in this case, you see health, care, and human services, right? Like Michelle here. So Michelle has to pick one of what's the most pressing and kind of give an explanation. Then obviously whatever other items, her committee wants to put. And the same thing goes on, like Leoris, you will pick the top one, right? But again, using the existing template, you may want to keep it, you may want to edit, you may disagree. Again, this is a whole exercise. Public safety, Victor, you may disagree with what we chose last year. You may want to put other. Again, there's an existing structure of, this is core infrastructure, city services, and resiliency. I would say this is more Betty, right?
Right.
Environment and sanitation.
Yeah.
Housing, economic development, obviously Eric. Transportation, that would be Edgar, right? I'm sorry. Parks, obviously Barbara's committee, and the other ones that fall, like Chad, you will go into human services, the same thing. So you would look at the same thing that Michelle's looking. Obviously, you would target veterans, right? I would suggest you work closely with Michelle to kind of add stuff in there if you wanted to with the most pressing need. If not, then at least, you can add, it's limitless to what you can add in terms of, items for capital and expense, which you've already had. But you get the point, right? I just kind of wanted to walk everybody through this just in case, a refresher. We've had a rough 2 years and it's easy to just forget. And then of course, the last thing I added a link here, hopefully this opens quickly, is what we submitted, right? I did put in a request to DCP to get an Excel version of it, but this is pretty much what we submitted, right? Right, so this gives you the our population. It gives you a breakdown, which is pretty much what Eric was talking about, the district profile, which is also on our website under resources. It's always there. It's always been there. If you recall, for some of you, when we were in person, I created a binder for you all, and that gave you a breakdown of what the district needs are, because I think it's important that we know that we have to represent the board as a whole, not our personal needs, not just the needs on our block, right? Just because something doesn't affect us, it doesn't mean that it's not a big issue in the district. And it's important to look at the demographics. It's important to look at, whether we have multi-family dwellings, what's the most that we have, education, things that, can, reflect the needs. So here, this is like the overview of the community district. You can read it. This is what you all voted on. These are the top 3, which we just saw. And here's just I'll go through just this one. This is pretty much what I was saying, where you pick the one issue in healthcare and you kind of fill it in. And that's what Michelle did. Again, one thing that we should be getting into is looking for support letters, right? So if you know that there's an institution in the district, I'm going to use North Central as an example. Michelle, now that Alfredo Jones, the new ED that replaced Christina, has been very active attending all of her health committee meetings, this is a good opportunity to say, hey, Mr. Jones, what are some of the issues that you feel that you need funding with or would like to expand on? And he would provide us with a letter of request and support. And this is something that Michelle can give to us to upload. And that's an example of activism. I always reach out to the libraries to see if they have any funding requests that we can upload into this system. Chad already kind of explored or went down the road of nonprofits, right? So it's good. It doesn't hurt us to explore that just to help the district, right? I'm using, and the same thing for you, Barbara, like reaching out to the recreational centers and see if there's funding opportunities that they feel they would need, and you will get a letter of support from the director. Or if they can't do that, you can at least kind of put your own 2 cents that Williamsburg needs whatever, you know, that's kind of like.
Or get friends groups to write.
Correct. Yes, correct. Like for example,
Friends of
what is it that
DeVoe.
you were saying for DeVoe Park, the part-time rec person, right?
Right.
Right. So you would get a letter of support from the friends group that would support those efforts, right?
Right.
It just helps, right? When you know how they say the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and it's best that we have partners. And that's also something we can share with the council members to kind of push that it's not just the board, it's that. So that's kind of like a way to push, to Eric's point, some of these items potentially in the future away from here and into the hands of those who can actually fund it.
Right.
And it's good practice. So that's why I sent that out today. So you can start reviewing it and start talking about it at your committees. Your committees will have this populated on the agendas. We did this last year for your September and I believe October, since we voted late in November. You can have these, you can start sending this to your committee members and start getting input from them. So when you actually meet, you're not wasting hours trying to go back and forth.
Right.
The last thing is, yeah. So in August, I'm going to work with the Department of City Planning to do a good practice training. I am not going to rely on DCP to provide a full training on this. I'm going to do it based on our needs, right? On the things that I feel like we've lacked or could use more guidance on. And then we're going to bring this training in probably in August. Obviously, you know, I'll work with the usuals if anyone else is interested, but you know, like I said, Eric, Jahira, obviously Andrew, work on this to put this training together. And also just input from you all if you feel that you need to learn more about something that you're unclear of. I'm obviously not the person to answer all those questions, but I want to be able to facilitate that so it's streamlined for us in September. So in August, you know, stand by for a training for this.
Sounds good.
And then
All
the
right.
last thing,
Go
sorry,
ahead, quickly,
Barbara.
go ahead.
And Andrew, I think you spoke about this. I just want to, so this is something that's kind of been like in the air a little bit, when committees don't meet quorum. Did you all read that? Like, so even if you don't make quorum, you can certainly stay on and continue the discussion. But if you do have a presenter, you have to bring them to the executive board for a full presentation and a vote, unfortunately. But you can certainly continue to have, you know, whatever conversations you want to have in these meetings, or no minutes are required, no attendance or anything like that. But you would have to tell that presenter to come to the executive meeting for a full vote on behalf of your committee. So I wanted to make sure that that was clear, because I feel like sometimes I didn't really like have the answer for that, but it's been happening often. So I want to make sure everyone has the answer. And it's bad that it's happening often, Barbara. That means we're not meeting quorum. So
yeah. Okay, thank you. We're up to committee reports, and I'm going to turn the agenda over to Chad. Go ahead, you're on. We can't hear you, Chad. You're muted.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. Thank you. So
Go ahead, you're on.
just a point of clarification before I start. The motion, do I move to amend the agenda now, or do I wait till my turn is up?
I guess when your turn is up for your committee report, no?
No, actually, that had to be done at the beginning, so now you have to do a whole motion on it to amend the agenda.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So first we have budget, personnel, and ethics by Andrew Leosa.
No,
No, no, your
so hold on for a
amendment
second.
first, right?
If,
Oh, I
I
misunderstood.
believe
Sorry.
Andrew, I'm sorry, these bicycles, well, bikes. Andrew and Chad, right? The motions were not on the agenda, so you have to put a motion forth to amend the agenda to include your motions. You have to read your motions and get them passed as well as Andrew in order to move forward with that. Does that make sense?
So we have to move to amend it now then.
You have to make a motion to amend the agenda. You have to state the motions that you're adding to the agenda. Or
And
you
then
could
we
defer
move
to
on,
the
right.
chair of the committee to read the motion, however.
Okay. So Andrew, you have a motion that you wanted to put a motion for?
So you have,
Motion to alter the agenda.
Amend.
Amend, alter, yes.
yeah,
Motion
a
to
motion
cut.
to amend the agenda to include and, whatever from there.
And this is the agenda. Motion to remove board member Jamar Quintana, who has been found to be in violation of the attendance requirements as it appears in Bronx Community Board 7 bylaws, Article 3, Section 4. In addition, no response was received from the board member to indicate an interest in remaining on the board. That's the motion. Sorry, and therefore, the Budget Personnel Ethics Committee recommends removal from the board. And just a little background, so that's the end of the motion. Just a little background, as you know, you might remember, the Budget Personnel Ethics Committee, the Executive Committee, and the full board voted to send letters to communicate to the two board members who were found to be in violation of the attendance requirements. That was done. No response was received, and therefore that's why the Budget Personnel Ethics Committee recommends a removal from the board. And we have to do one board member at a time.
I'll second.
Right. You have to take a vote, I guess.
Chad does that vote, or this
Yeah.
committee? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it. So let's start with Barbara.
Okay, Barbara votes yes for the motion.
Erica
I'm
Simpson?
sorry, at the end of, just make sure that you reflect that item 1 is one thing, item 2, item 3.
Yes,
Okay,
I'm
okay.
copying it down.
Erica Sensio?
Erica Asensio approves.
Betty Arce?
Betty Arce approves.
Yahira Arias? I don't think she.
Jahira Arias approves.
Oh. Michelle Avila?
Michelle Avila votes yes on the motion.
Angela Osa?
Andrew Leosa supports the motion.
Emmanuel is on leave. Edgar Ramos?
Edgar Ramos agrees with the,
Lourdes Acosta?
Hi, Laurisa Acosta, no. Am I able to comment or should that be after? I don't know how this works.
You can, do you want to be,
Noted.
Yes, you could be noted on the record with a comment, yes.
Sure, yeah, I'm gonna say no. I spoke to Jomar recently. I think that there is potential for him to provide value specifically to the Education, Youth and Libraries Committee. I know he has a lot going on, but I also understand that he has not been attending. So I understand. I'm just gonna say no though.
got you. Thank you for that. Chad Royer? I'm going to abstain from this one. Victor Saldana?
Victor Saldana votes yes.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 yeses, 1 no, 1
Carries.
abstention.
Carries.
So the motion carries.
Yes.
So now you want to make another amendment to the agenda, Andrew?
No, I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah,
There were
it's for the
two
second.
members.
Basically, it's the same motion for the other board member, and that's Michelle Gonzalez.
oh, okay. All right, is there?
Don't you need to state the motion, even though it's the same?
Please state the motion,
You need
please.
to state the motion for the record,
Interest
Andrew.
time, but, okay. Motion to remove Michelle Gonzalez from the board, who has been found to be in violation of attendance requirements that appears in the Bronx Community Board 7 bylaws, Article 3, Section 4. In addition, no response was received from the board member to indicate an interest in remaining on the board. Therefore, the Budget Person or Ethics Committee recommends removal from the board.
All right, do we have a second for that motion? Yes, no?
I'll second.
Okay,
Mavoye.
thank you. All right. You want to take the vote, Chad? I can't hear you, Chad.
Sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Take the
Barbara-
vote.
Yes. Barbara Stronser,
Yes, I vote yes on the motion.
Eric Asensio,
Eric Asensio votes yes.
Betty Arce,
Betty Arce votes yes. I'd like just to comment that this is basically just a this is a motion the individual has, I guess at some point can come back. And if the person is off and has stuff to contribute, they can always attend meetings, and even if they can't be a board member, and can be of value to a committee and to the board. I vote yes.
thank you. Yahira Arias,
Yahira Arias votes yes.
okay, can someone mute, please? Thank you. Michelle Avila,
Michelle Avila votes yes.
Andrew Leosa,
Andrew Leosa supports the motion.
Emmanuel is on leave, Edgar Ramos,
Edgar Ramos agrees with the motion.
Lourdes Acosta,
Lourdes Acosta, yes.
Chad Royer, I'm going to abstain. Victor Saldana.
Victor Saldana votes yes.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 yeses, no nos, and 1 abstention. The motion carries. Thank you, Andrew. Next, we have Education, Youth, and Libraries. Lourdes Acosta.
Hello,
Lourdes,
Chad. Hello, Community Board 7. I'm very bad at this. I will say that we met earlier this month and had a nice meeting. We officially got our 4, not 5, winners of the scholarship. I'll name them during the general meeting and give a little shout out to them. I guess they will be recognized at Yankee Stadium in, I'm not sure what month, Aisha, but
June 1st, during, oh wait, that's like in 2 weeks. I don't even know the week I'm living anymore. June 1st, yeah. I forget the team that's playing.
the Yankees. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Really, I meant like the other, like the team that
opponent.
really
I'm
noticed.
messing with you.
No, I meant like, how they're playing like a team.
Yeah.
It's only the Yankees. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. So
I'm gonna just text Jade to make sure because we just got the date too. We were holding back all the boards, by the way, because it took so long to even get 4 names.
Los Angeles.
So all the boards were held back.
Gotcha.
the Angels. Is that what? the
Is it
Angels?
that's what came up? I have no idea. I don't watch. I'm sorry. I don't
Yeah, they
follow.
start playing them on the 31st.
Like I bleed blue just because I'm from the Bronx, but like I don't watch baseball. I'm sorry.
Chicago will be there tomorrow night. The truck's coming at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll be there.
Ladies, I'm texting Jade now to make sure she sends you the profiles. I think your profiles you do have. I think you're just missing one. I'm not sure. Let me see.
Okay.
Profiles and
Got
the
you.
date. The date we just got, I think today or yesterday. Because that's not up to us. So
All right. Thank you, Lourdes.
Thank you.
Next, we have Environmental and Sanitation by Betty Arce.
We met on May 4th, and we had just some presentations from DEP project that.
stop, go eat. I'm working.
Okay,
sorry.
sorry. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. We had, like I said, a presentation of DEP on a project, that even though it's in CB8, it hopefully will benefit CB7. It's on Monson Parkway at the very end, but it's in the CB8, Community Board CB8. And we had Karen Angenti from the Bronx Council of Environmental Quality, just giving us an update on some projects related to the Tibbetts Brook daylighting project and some other issues. DSNY didn't attend. They will be coming in June, and just had some interesting items that they will follow up with at that meeting. We'll be meeting again on June 7th at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you. Next, we have Health and Human Services, Michelle Avila.
Chad. So we met earlier this week and we had two really informative presentations. One from North Central Bronx's women's services, specifically their OB and GYN services. We had Dr. Ngozi Nkwampa and the head of the midwife division, Miss Denise Wharton, give a really informative presentation on what services are available for moms and also for folks presenting with specialty gynecological issues. So I will include the presentation in my minutes. We also had Kenneth Johnson from the Department of Health and Human Services, from the DOHMH, Department of Health and Mental Health, talk about the city's increase in COVID alert. So if folks didn't know, we were at medium up until earlier this week, and we are now on high alert. The city is recommending for folks to mask indoors, and we'll continue to encourage folks to get vaccinated, boosted, get your second and third boosters if eligible. Encourage folks to get tested. North Central Bronx provided their testing hours. I'm going to put them in the chat, but again, they will also be in the minutes as well. And then our third presentation was from Orisha Wholeness, and they are holding an event this Saturday, May 21st. I believe the board staff circulated the flyer, but it's a wellness walk, and then they'll have activities afterwards. The rest of the details will be in my minutes, but I wanted to flag 3 issues that came up during our committee meeting. So one, it's not an issue, it's a partnership idea. Actually, Toby from DeVoe Park attended the meeting, Friends of DeVoe Park attended the meeting and said they wanted to collaborate on a community event in the summer. So I said I would relay to the executive committee, and Aisha, I will email you and the staff so that we can see if we move forward, identifying a date and coordinating that. The committee also talked about kind of summer planning and just understanding that there are some activities that kind of ratchet up during the summer. One of those is rats. And we know that the rat problem is a serious problem that's been flagged by many folks, Sirio Garino being the champion of them. And so thinking about how we encourage folks to file those 311 complaints, but also follow up with the office so that the office can follow up directly. And Kenneth Johnson from DOHMH also offered to assist specifically if there are areas with a high rodent presence. He has offered to follow up with whatever remedy is appropriate for that specific area. So I want to like put that on the table, and maybe for the June meeting, we could discuss, you know, what support as exec committee members and board members we could give to the office and vice versa, so that we're encouraging folks to really like document these calls and also following up on our end. The third one is resources for the kind of unsheltered individuals in CB7. Specifically, they talked about the FEGS building on Jerome Avenue and just, you know, a higher presence of unsheltered individuals in the neighborhood. Again, as the summer is coming, how can we as a community board and good neighbors use the resources that we have, the connections with the agencies that we have, to make sure that those folks are getting the resources and supports that they need. And so again, I think that this is maybe something that we can think about and talk about over email, and maybe talk a little further about in June, just to kind of streamline a process, right? Is it like, if we're noticing you know, a high presence, notifying the office, and then the office can then follow up with DOHMH, or Aisha and I just got linked with a detox center that offered their services. So it's like, how do we make the resources that we know about available to the community, so that, again, folks are getting the services that we need, and we're also keeping the quality of life in our neighborhoods that we all want and deserve. Go ahead, Aisha.
No, I just wanted to add, you know, one of the things that the new, I don't want to say new because it's the change in usage of Arcasia, the one on University, that would help a lot, in the sense that it's similar to, and I hate to use the term, but in comparison to a drop-in center that would allow us to not, you know, to help these individuals and not have to go all the way downtown to get assessed, but rather reach out to Arcasia and Bronx Works that are going to be working together to assess them and put them somewhere near their, you know, within the district. And that would be in this place at on University, because that's something that makes it different from a regular shelter. So just wanted to remind folks on what kind of services are coming to University, not the misconception of what that would be, but rather, you know, because I think a lot of folks that are unsheltered, sometimes going downtown and getting assessed is a lot, you know, but if there's one nearby, it helps. It may not change everybody's mind, but I think it helps.
Yeah, thanks, Aisha. And I think that the important part, it's that we're sharing the resources, sharing them with our community board members, our community, and also when, you know, as these topics come up in our different committees, like being informed and like connected, so that we're, again, linking people to resources that are available, because I know our committee gets a lot of great presentations and a lot of good information. And it could be something that is then being discussed and experienced at another committee, like public safety. And so that's what I'm proposing, kind of just like mapping out a way that we can bring the resources internally, so that we can be informed when we have these discussions and push it out as well. The last thing that I'll say, and I apologize for taking so long, we also had outreach from Senator Gustavo Rivera's office between last month and this month. He was supposed to present, but unfortunately couldn't because of a conflict. His office offered a talk by St. Anne's Corner of Harm Reduction, and they offered to have the co-director of programs at St. Anne's that leads the syringe safe disposal team to come and talk to our committee. It was really short timing on our end, and so I wanted to bring it to exec. I know, again, this is a topic that has come up at other committee meetings. So if folks have questions or concerns that have been brought up, please email me, and maybe let's get on another Zoom and talk about how we can maybe team up on a presentation, so that, again, folks are getting the information and we're addressing this from like all angles. That's it. And I see Andrew has his hand up.
Yeah. So it's all over the news. There's like a baby formula shortage.
Mm-hmm.
And I did see in the news very specifically that it really, really hits poor moms and kids the hardest. So what do we have in the Bronx? So my question is the Bronx or community board, anybody in community board 7 trying to address the shortage? And is the shortage worse in the Bronx, or maybe it isn't? I don't know.
Thanks, Andrew. I've seen it on the news as well. I don't know of anyone locally within CB7 that's addressing that. Aisha, I don't know if you've heard of anything, any efforts?
No, I can certainly pose the question to the borough. I was just gonna say the borough president's office and see if there are any efforts that are being led there. So when they come to the general board meeting, typically Ishmael or someone comes, we can see if we can latch on to their efforts. But certainly, Andrew, if you have any suggestions, or anyone, we're always here to help. This board has been very good at leading the way and helping any community, any residents in the community with help. So if anyone wants to start an effort or whatever, I mean, that's,
Just
we're
an
here to help.
FYI, they in that report, they went out and actually within the state of New York, checked store shelves. New York City, the Bronx actually is one of the better locations as far as the ability to buy these products. They showed like Walmart and some of the bigger chain stores where actually had nothing, and some of the supermarkets in the Bronx actually had a stock of a lot of those products, remarkably.
Okay.
Edgar.
All right.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Let's move on. Housing, land use, and economic development, Eric Asensio. Eric?
We had a presentation from NHS on our meeting, and we had a really long meeting actually. And from the Armory, Sandra from the Northwest Clergy presented about the Armory. And in the next month, we are going to be talking to the Botanic Garden on their project on Webster Avenue. But I did have a question. Didn't we agree that we were just not going to do the reports through the exec last meeting? And instead we were just going to talk about items that really kind of like needed to be concentrated on by the exec?
That was my understanding. All right.
Agreed.
Just a
Yes,
question
Charlie.
for the next meeting.
Okay. So next we have Parks and Recreation.
Okay.
With Barbara.
I have a motion. We had Adam Ganza, who was the executive director of New Yorkers for Parks at our meeting. If you're familiar with him, you know he has a major campaign on to remind our mayor that when he was campaigning, he promised that he would take from our budget and give parks 1% of the city budget. Right now, they're only getting a half of 1% of the city budget. So we are asking the board to send a letter to the mayor reminding him of his campaign promises and letting him know how vital the parks are to our area. All right, so the motion reads, a letter be sent to Mayor Adams reminding him of his campaign promise to increase the parks budget from a half of the percent of the city budget to 1% of the city budget. All right, the background are, you all know that our parks are overutilized. We're getting many more apartment buildings in the area, and our staffing for maintenance in these parks is very low. All right, so the rationale is there. As far as prior actions, we bring up maintenance and staffing at all our parks meetings. And in the future, we will be lobbying city council members at budget time. All right, can I have a second to that motion? Okay, thank you. Any comments? No. All right, so we will have to take that to a vote. Okay.
Okay.
Let me find. Okay, go ahead, Chad.
Okay, Barbara Stranzer,
Barbara Stranza votes yes.
Eric Asensio,
Eric Asensio votes yes.
Betty Arce,
Betty Arce votes yes.
Yahaira Arias,
Jahaira Arias votes yes.
Michelle Avila,
Michelle Avila votes yes.
Andrew Leosa,
Andrew Leosa supports the motion.
Edgar Ramos,
Edgar Ramos supports the motion.
Lourdes Acosta.
Luis Acosta votes yes. Also, real quick, you could check my attendance right there, Chad. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chad Roy, I'm sorry. Chad Royer votes yes. And Victor Saldana.
Votes yes. Okay, thank you. The other presenter we had was.
Chad, sorry, I just want to remind Chad what Leody said, if you could just change his attendance.
Okay,
Oh,
I'll do it for you, don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay. The other presenter was from DDC about the construction of the golf house on Jerome Avenue and 211 Street in Van Cortlandt Park. It's all in my minutes, so you can take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Next, we have Public Safety, Quality of Life, Victor Saldana.
Thanks, Chad. We have no motion for our committee. Just a larger update. NYP 52nd Precinct did speak about the rise in crime in our community. They're going to come back in next month's meeting to give us an update about what their plans are going to be for the summer and coming months as we get ready for the warm weather. Thank you.
Thank you. So next we have Traffic and Transportation, Edgar Ramos.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Being that June, the bus redesign is supposed to be getting implemented, I've sent out an email to MTA to see if they could give us something, either a presentation or the actual final document as to what the changes are. DOT is going to be there doing a presentation in order to some Safe Street projects that they're working on. So anyone that would like to help or be part of the conversation, if you could please come to my meeting. It'll be on June 2nd, Thursday, 6:30. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, Edgar. Thank you. Next, we have Veterans Affairs. Okay, we have Veterans Affairs by Chad. So I actually have a motion that I'd like to present. So I'd like to put a motion on the table to amend the agenda to improve my motion, which follows.
Second the motion.
Oh, thank you. But let me just read the motion real quick. So the title is Support Letter for Street Co-naming in memory of our.
You have to vote to amend the agenda, unfortunately, first.
Oh, I thought I had to state the agenda, the motion that was amending.
No, you have to make a motion to amend the agenda to include it and then say the motion the way you normally would, because you're
Okay.
amending it, period, yeah.
Right. So I move to amend the agenda to include the motion for a support letter from Board 7 to draft in support of an application of a street co-naming. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, Barbara Stranzer,
I vote yes.
Eric Asensio,
I vote yes.
Betty Arce,
I vote yes.
Yahaira Arias,
Jahaira Arias votes yes.
Michelle Avila,
Michelle Avila votes yes.
Andrew Leosa,
Andrew Leosa supports the motion.
Edgar Ramos,
Edgar Ramos supports the motion to amend the agenda, to append the agenda, sorry.
Lourdes Acosta,
I'm sorry, I just want to understand. So this is a motion to change a street name to something specific?
Change the agenda so we can listen
To
to.
amend the agenda, so
Oh,
that
I'm
we can
sorry.
vote on the motion.
I'm
to
sorry about that.
change.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, so yes.
Okay.
Luis Acosta votes yes.
Chad Royer votes yes. Victor Saldana,
Victor Saldana votes yes.
Great, motion carries. So we had a speaker, Ilian Corona, discuss additional benefits for our veteran constituents.
Wait, I'm sorry. You voted to amend the agenda, but what was the motion? It's two separate
Oh,
things.
I'm sorry. I'm
And now
sorry.
you're gonna give us the motion.
I'm sorry. I'll do that first. Sorry. I'm looking at my notes at the same time. So the motion that is on the table. Wait, now I can't see my screen. Okay. So the motion on the table is for a support letter from the board CB7 to be drafted in support of an application of a street co-naming at southeast corner of Grand Concourse East Fordham Road for Army serviceman and Bronx resident Luis Moreno, who died in the line of duty in Iraq at the age of 19. So the
Chad, I'm
background,
gonna stop you right here. I'm gonna stop you because this is another committee's responsibility. So let me just share. Barbara has put together and I hate to use the word in the past, but like from her committee, a recommendation over to traffic to make a one-way street or a two-way street, a one-way street. So this is something that falls on traffic and transportation. I know it's a veteran you're asking for, but to kind of, Barbara, you've done this in the past, right? Where
Yes.
from your committee, so just to be respectful of the roles, that should go to traffic and transportation.
Okay, so
well,
I'm stating like, you know, I'm just, Barbara, you've done this where like from your committee,
yes,
there
yes.
has been a
okay.
street request. But that's part of the blurb on traffic and transportation or the street renamings.
well, I understand. The thing is, the individual, Samuel Ravello, came to the meeting and brought the information based on what happened several years. I'm just giving you the background on how we got here. So he came to the meeting because it was a veteran-related issue that didn't get resolved. And the only thing that I was doing was following a protocol that was recommended by Ms. Karina Sanchez. So
I'm sorry, but you know, that's not, I'm just saying, like, that's something that goes to traffic, like.
So are you
Every
saying,
committee has its role. So, and now this is what we're doing with street renamings. That's what I'm saying. Like, I need to figure this out because once we set the standard, just because it's a veteran, it goes to veteran. If it's a nurse, then it goes to health and human services. You get where I'm going with this? Like, there's a
Can
committee
we,
first.
Chad, ask
Well-
Edgar to put it on his agenda for next month?
I just want to know what you guys are doing. If this is what we're doing, then I need to know because when the public calls me for questions, then I need to be able to respond to them. So if we're changing protocol here, you have to let me know as the office, I need to be able to answer those things. That's why I'm
Well-
asking here.
well,
Edgar, I don't know if you want to jump in, but that's part of the blurb of your committee.
Okay, we have a raised hand there. Hugo,
So-
do you want to
oh,
add something?
I'd like to answer that real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'll explain the rationale again. This wasn't an original agenda item. This came up in other business when the person came to the meeting.
I get that, Chad, but this is
So-
a traffic and transportation item. So I just want clarity. So if it's a nurse now that we're naming a street after, do I send it to Michelle or do I send it to Edgar? I need to know how we're doing this moving forward because it is protocol that if it's a street renaming support letter, it always go to traffic.
Edgar,
I'm asking, no, I'm trying to follow protocol here. So I'm trying to figure out what practice we're setting moving forward. That's all.
this is the first time I've been in this situation. And since Edgar is on the call, would you mind if we brought it to your meeting, Edgar? Would you mind? Would that be an issue?
Oh, no, I got no problems with it at all.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll settle it in June then, correct?
Yeah, the only other thing I can say,
We got more than 3 days, so I can update the agenda for the June 2nd.
Good.
All right, so I'll send you over all the info and I'll ask Sammy.
You can even present at his committee, Chad.
Yep.
Like, yeah, that's the whole point. It came to yours. You could go and present it. That's what Barbara did. You can just go
I
to
just
his
need,
and
I just need for you to present your voting record of your committee, what their opinion of it was, and that's it.
Mhm.
It should be good.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
all right.
Okay.
So that
sorry, I
concludes my-
wasn't trying to disrupt. I'm just trying to figure out you know, what we're doing moving forward. If I do get the call, right, I know what to say to a community member.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time this happened, so.
No, Chad, it's totally fine. Like, you didn't do anything wrong, right? Like, I just, you know, again, as staff, right? When folks call the office, I just need to know what the board wants to do moving forward. That's all.
The only difference here is that instead of a letter of support being approved in May, it'll end up being approved in June assumptively. So.
I doubt anyone's gonna say no to that. I just,
least
again, it's more on administrative part, right? Like if someone calls the office, then I'm like, what committee am I sending them to, right? That's all.
I guess, yeah.
I have a question just to you, Chad. Is there a time frame issue on this?
It kind of is, and I am not on the inside to know. This was something that was presented to the family about 20 years ago. He died in 2004, and several electeds kind of dropped the ball. And it was only upon discovery that this came to the committee because Sammy Ravello was trying to find the family member. So, I mean, if it happens sooner, that'd be great. But then I'm not in control of that. So.
But you know, it's not gonna happen. Even a letter of support from the committee board is not gonna generate a street naming, you know, right away. So that's.
No, I understand. It's part of the process when you file the documents with the city council.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'll just have to explain that to Mr. Ravello, and then we can just move it on so that we can get it done.
Right, and it can be done at the transportation committee. You know,
Right.
have Mr. Ravello be there. You know.
Okay, I'll have a word with him.
Okay.
Okay, that concludes my report.
But Chad, if it's time sensitive, to Betty's point, did they give you a time frame?
He said as soon as possible, but I don't have a date.
Look, again, I'm just stating the obvious, but it's up to the executive. I just want to make sure that if we are breaking it, it's a unique circumstance because of timing. So I just want to put all those things out there. It doesn't mean that it's like, oh my God, you're doing the wrong thing, but I have to make sure that if it's a street renaming that we're setting a tone, and if it's not, then I need to know what we're doing. That's all. But it's up to the board to decide whether things are time sensitive or not.
And which is the council person?
Marina Sanchez.
Oh, okay.
She's new, right? So you really don't know how long this has been sitting on her desk, correct?
Well, it just came to her desk earlier this year.
Okay.
I mean,
So
can we
if-
make an exception, Aisha? I'm just asking, not that we take this out.
That
of
is
order.
totally up to the board, of course. I just want to be
Okay.
clear that
Okay.
what the protocol is on street renamings in respective to the committee, but of course, you know how you could bring up motions at any time. But I know that one thing that this board always respects is that things go to respective committees, right?
Right.
So I want to make sure that that's out there. And also if we're changing that from an administrative point of view, I also need to know that, right? That's all I was, raising.
I just see this as somewhat of an exception only because of the timing, not because Chad has sat on this, it's because the individual came to Chad's committee, because the Veterans Committee, not knowing that, our process that it would have gone through transportation. So that's why I'm more than willing to make an exception, not the rule. This is not to set precedent. This is just to your point, if it was to be named after nurse, I mean, we know now what the process is. It should go through certain committees, but this was an exception. So I don't know if you want to make an exception, if that will help.
I mean, I defer to the chairperson on this one, Madam Chair.
I like this idea of putting it through as an exception this month. And I think we all heard loud and clear that in the future, it would go to traffic and transportation.
Right.
Edgar, what's your opinion on it? Since you're the chair of the transportation.
No, I don't have an opinion either way. I mean, the fact that this street should be named, I believe that's a positive thing. You know what I'm saying? The fact that it got delayed through city council and that the ball got dropped, I think is outrageous. But you know, is the timeliness on our side gonna in any way impact what's being done by city council? I mean, is this still actively moving through city council? Was there a proposal? I mean, are we putting a letter of support or are we actually putting the request in for the street?
No, it's just a simple letter of saying that we support the application for the street naming that's already in process. And a prior action has already been taken from Farina, as she had already spoken with Sammy Ravello. So it's just one of the items that he has to check off in order for the process to continue.
So is this a group that's asking for a job? It's a group, right?
Sammy Ravello is acting on behalf of the family. They happen to be Spanish speaking, so I'm not able to, so he's like the mediator in a sense.
Because when they did a street renamer for Junior, it was a group of people that decided to request it. And the council member at the time made it very well known that he would only honor it if the family made the request.
Yeah, it's because he reached out to the remaining family member that's there is his sister.
Another thing that other boards do, just to put this out there, is that they request signatures from the residents of the area prior to writing a letter of support. So maybe that's something in the future, Edgar, that you may want to we could probably add to your blurb if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, well, I'll just state this as well. Sammy mentioned all he needed was a letter of support. I asked if there was anything else that he needed to go through, and he made it clear that he would push the rest from this point. So I did offer.
So I would say a good practice in the future is to get a letter of support from the family.
Okay, we have a few hands up here. Go ahead, Yahira. Yahira?
Hi, sorry about that. I think in the conversation, my question was answered. So
Okay.
to be clear, but yeah, I think if we're gonna make an exception, for something like this, I'm all for it since I'm the wife of a veteran. So
Okay, and it is, Memorial Day is coming up also. Hugo, go ahead.
Hi, at our committee meeting, oh, by the way, Sammy Ravello, I believe he was presenting himself as representing the Dominican Veterans of America Association, I believe it was. And again, like Chad said, he said that he had gotten permission from the family member. The reason I raised my hand up is since I don't want to step on toes, and we didn't realize that street renaming will fall under transportation committee. So because of that, I just want to mention that the address where this fallen veteran resided at is actually Community Board 5, and the high school that he attended was Community Board 5. And the street renaming, I believe, is the Fordham Road in Jerome, pretty much where the veterans, not the veterans, the Army, the military recruiting center is at. So I'm just mentioning that because that might also bring in another community board into the conversation.
And also two of those corners I think are already renamed for Big Pun. They did this summer.
Wait, we lost Chad. Hold on.
He's coming.
Yeah.
All right, so actually the site is in Board 5 that we're supporting. Is that what you're saying, Hugo?
It might or it might not be. I think they said the north side that they were going to put it on. However, he was a resident community board 5, so I don't know
Okay.
You know, we
Chad,
had, we had some member community boards 5 present, and from the community board 5 Veterans Committee.
yeah.
There was like no real issues, but I just want to mention it just in case it comes up in order to prevent any further delays or red tape when they try to resolve this.
Okay. All right, Andrew, your hand is up, and then Jean, go ahead. Andrew?
Yeah, I'm just like thoroughly confused here. I mean, my head is spinning. Is it in Board 7? Is it not in Board 7? Where exactly is it?
Chad,
Do we
where
have-
is the street sign? Is it
have
the
any-
south side?
The
or
location,
north?
the location.
And also, if we have a city
I'm
council
sorry,
person,
I'll wait, but
if the city council person has vetted this request, I mean, we don't know, one family member may want it somewhere else. There's just a million questions. If there's a city council person that has vetted this request and is supporting the request, I would have thought that we would have known that. Our board has a good communication with our city council people, so I can't vote on something, I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable.
All right, Chad, could you give us the exact location of this
Okay.
site?
yes, so the location that was picked is actually within Community Board 7, and it's on the Grand Concourse and Fordham Road on the west side of the street.
South or north?
That's the south side.
South is Board 5, is it not, Aisha?
Yes, yes.
All right, that's Board 5 then. If it's the south side, Chad.
I thought it was past 188th.
No, I believe.
If you're going
The
south,
road side, not on the concourse.
You want to share your screen and do a Google map?
No, it's getting late.
I don't.
Chad, why don't you find out if Board 5 is supporting, and, you know, if they are, then take it to Traffic and Transportation.
well,
Robert,
I
they're
did
not.
reach out.
I don't want to interject over everybody.
I
Yeah,
did-
go ahead, Jean.
It came up about that location because he kept saying, Mr. Ravello, that it was the Grand Concourse in Fordham. So I kept asking exactly where on the Grand Concourse in Fordham. As far as Andrew's question about the city council person, this came up originally with Councilman Cabrera, who's no longer in office. So it transitioned over. Then it became, well, did you not run out of the time frame? But they do it 2 times a year. So I asked, are you sure you're not out of the time frame to have it done for June? He said, no, Mr. Ravello. So then the Board 5 person came on and said, I do believe that this falls under our Board 5. So there is some questions about, is it Board 5? Is it Board 7? The new council person for that district would have to make the final approval. He was intimating that had already been done, that all he really needed was a letter of recommendation from the community board, and that was the last piece of the puzzle that he needed. So maybe some other questions do need to be, filled out. So that's where we left it.
Okay.
Like I shared, some other boards, they do signatures, right? It's similar to street block parties and all those things, right? Because you're inhabiting a street, signatures are required. To Jean's point, the family, not Jean's point, I'm sorry, I forgot who mentioned it. I think Andrew. The family, like I mentioned with Junior's street renaming, the family was unaware, and nor did they make the request. So the council member at the time made sure that the request was coming from the family, because anyone can pick a street, but if the family, let's say they don't want that street, it's up to the family. So it's important that the board understand that anybody can make a request, but it's essentially up to the family. And moving forward, Edgar, maybe you want to set up like a system for this, that the committee sees fit.
Okay, I'm going to suggest to Chad that since we think it's Board 5 and not Board 7, would he please check on that? If it turns out that it's Board 7, then bring this request to Traffic and Transportation at their next meeting.
Well, I did reach out to someone from 5. In fact, she was on the call and we did have a conversation. So if it's absolutely necessary, I still asked if she could try to get a letter of support initiated over there as well. So if that's the case, so be it.
Yeah, and I think a support letter from the family too. I think it's important too. Because if he's
Probably
a
has
resident of
that.
Ward 5, huh?
He probably has that, but I gotta ask him.
Yeah, okay, so to be continued, Chad. All
Okay.
right, we'll move the agenda. Go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, so the last part is the ad hoc bylaws committee. Is there anyone from the ad hoc bylaws committee that can
No,
give?
unfortunately, Myrna had a family emergency, a really big one actually. So unfortunately, they did not meet. So we're in conversations with her to get another date.
Okay.
Okay, so that concludes the committee reports on the agenda.
Chad,
Oh, yes, Lourdes?
yeah, real quick. I mean, do I have the, can I say it now?
Yes, you have the floor.
All right, so I forgot to mention this, of course, but on June 28th, the Education, Youth, and Libraries Committee is actually in the works and planning an event at Poe Park, a literacy event. We're gonna give away books, and we're still working on it in conjunction with Literacy Inc. So stay tuned. I know there will be a resource fair by us a couple of days before, so I'll be there supporting and also advertising the event. Just wanted to let you guys know. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. So the next thing, do we have we don't have any follow-ups from the previous meeting, do we?
No.
No? Okay, let's move on. Next meeting date, I know we have marked June 16th, but we don't really know at this point. Is that safe to say?
Yeah.
True, we
Okay.
don't know where it'll be.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. To
So,
be announced.
okay, so we're at the last part of the agenda that says adjournments. Final thoughts before we close out.
I would like at some point a discussion, about these, I don't know how we're gonna address this one. The one with these motor scooters and whatnot, they're just becoming, it's just becoming really, a real pain. I heard on the radio this morning that some of, even the e-scooters, the ones that have batteries, that there's some danger about charging them in homes, like some of the people who are delivery people who work during the day, they have to charge their batteries at night. And you remember those hoverboards that started, the batteries used to, explode? You know what I'm talking about? Those,
The lithium batteries?
yeah, exactly. On those hoverboards that the kids were using, that they were finding that some of the batteries were exploding. Well, something like that is happening with some of these e-scooters. So that's one concern that got me going. But it's overall, I just this morning I was right in front of my house. There was what I thought was a motorcycle. It turned out to be, it's not a motorcycle. It was an unlicensed, unregistered motor vehicle, gas powered, because I could smell it. And it's, it's not licensed. The driver had no helmet, and he was just revving it up. And these are basically, to me, the motorcycles in disguise of scooters. And I just think that we need to look at this as an issue. I've heard about people getting hurt. Unfortunately, 2 of the cats that I have on my property that are feral, that know the streets, were killed by these scooters in the last month. It wasn't by cars, it was by scooters. And these scooters go as fast as cars go. And yet many of them are uninsured, unlicensed, as I said before, driven by people who don't have the proper credentials as a licensed driver, whatever. And some of them are transporting children on them. So it's something that I don't know how we address this. I know it's a big issue throughout the Bronx and other places. I just don't know how it gets resolved at some point. I just bring that up. That's all. That's just my thing. Thank you for letting me vent. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see one hand up there, Eric. Eric?
Thank you. Just wanted to inform the committee that the DOT project on Moshulu Parkway is moving along. They already have markings on the parkway as to where the crosswalks will be.
Good news.
And then there was that concern that some people in the community around here have about that connection between East Moshulu Parkway South and the Parkway lighting and repaving of that pathway. So I don't know if that's something we would talk about, if we could talk about that in the next Transportation Committee meeting.
Yes, I think you brought it up to us at the Parks meeting, but I think it should go to Traffic Transportation as far as the lighting is concerned.
Right, remember I asked.
Yes, I
Steve
remember
about
your
it on
request, yes.
on the transportation, and he said it should go to Parks.
Parks, okay, I'll put it on the agenda then for my next month's meeting, but I think, is it capital outlay or something they can do in-house, do you know?
I don't know. That's something for
Okay,
them.
we
for
can
me to
find
ask
out.
them. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second it.
No, I have some, I have my hand
Oh,
raised. I just have
okay. Yeah,
Didn't
Ira,
see
go
it,
I have
ahead.
my, has anybody received any back emails from DCAS on the sexual harassment training? Because I sent them an email, I still haven't received anything back, so I
Yeah.
know the deadline is June,
Yes, they are responding.
so that's just a reminder for everybody.
I'm having the same problem, Yaira. They answered me once and told me to go back on. I went on and I cannot get on, so I let them know again. I'm still waiting.
Okay, can we maybe follow up with them for the agenda next month, just to make sure that we're all compliant?
Yeah, maybe the staff could help us out on that one too and find out what's going on.
Can they, don't we get people from the Bronx Borough President's Office coming to our general board meeting next Tuesday and we can bring it up as well?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We can bring it up there.
That'd be good.
Okay, just bringing
Just
that
a
up.
heads up, we usually have someone from the Bronx Borough President's Office that represents them.
Yes, we
This
could
should
bring it up,
definitely be something-
definitely.
There should be
It
something.
really would have been smart of them to let us handle it internally like they have in the past, and now they've completely taken it away from us, so I can't even help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is we should contact them before the meeting so they can have an action plan at the meeting, not bring it to them at the meeting and then have to wait till September.
Right.
Just a suggestion.
What I get, it goes to my last harassment video that I saw and it just thanks me. So, I mean, I don't know what to do with it. Jean,
It didn't let you.
I wanted to mention also, I wasn't able to get onto it. I tried, it wouldn't let me in, it kept kicking me back out.
So if possible, I would say reach out to Tom and request to take it at the borough president's office if you're
Okay,
comfortable.
will
That's
do.
an option that was shared in the email.
Because
So
we
if
have a
you
June 30th deadline, right?
Right.
I'm sure, yeah, but I'm saying like, I'm sure that if because of technical issues, they need to extend it, they will.
Mhm.
But I would say reach out to Tom and just schedule it to take, if you're comfortable, right?
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hugo, I see a hand.
Yeah, I took the sexual harassment training earlier this week, and I was having the same problem. It wanted to continue the previous year's training.
That's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, so basically I just told it to cancel and let it start over or whatever the option was. And then it started behaving correctly. But you are right, there is some kind of interface issue, which is, it's not a very clear interface.
So welcome to my world. Those are all the applications I have to work with.
Okay.
Just to share the glitches I deal with.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to close the meeting.
Motion second to close the meeting.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you.
All right.
Aye, aye, aye.